gave indication of a strike by a number of the various unions under the bigger umbrella of TUC, beginning Monday, July 15, to protest the sale of the 60% stake in 4 hotels owned by the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, to Rock City Hotel, which is owned by a Greek minister, Brian Champong. Now, the latest to this, and if you're just waking up to it, well, there's a development. The Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, has given notice of the termination of this entire transaction. Yes, SNIT has given notice that it has terminated the entire transaction. But then again, the Director General of SNIT these 4 hotels, because based on their own assessment of the financial status of these 4 hotels, they are all not making profit, and they need investment to be able to survive. Is that a true reflection of the facts of the situation on the ground? If it is, after their decision now to terminate this entire transaction with Rock City, first of all, you do know, I mean, if you didn't, Rock City pulled out of this deal before SNIT communicated their decision to terminate. So yesterday, it's a number of activities prior to this morning, right from organized labor declaring that nationwide strike. I think that was the last nail in the coffin for this entire transaction. Then after that declaration of the nationwide strike, then we see Rock City withdrawing from the entire deal. Then SNIT eventually, late at night, almost 10 p.m., communicating to us, the media, to tell you this morning that they have terminated the entire transaction. What does all of this mean? We'll have a conversation this morning. All of this, at least for the many of you, started when Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa began his expose. So what a good way to have this conversation if this entire transaction has been terminated. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa will be joining us this morning to have a conversation on this. So after this, then what next? Stay with us here on Key Point. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is joining us for an exclusive conversation in the next few minutes ahead of us. Well, the running mate of the New Patriotic Party for the 2024 election, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, is also known as Napo, Nana Poku. He's finally apologized for his the gaffe about Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and that comparison he made with President Akufo-Addo. He said his statement on Tuesday was not meant to disrespect Dr. Kwame Nkrumah or any of the country's former heads of state, including his grand-uncle, John Ejekum Kufuor. This apology comes after a section of all Ghanaians, they criticize him for claiming that President Akufo-Addo has outperformed all his predecessors since Ghana's independence, including Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And then again, a day after, he sought to explain that, look, Ghanaians celebrate people who lie and rather criticize persons who speak the truth. Then there's an apology now. There's been some advice to the MPP, if they are so minded, to consider in employing and strategizing around Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh. We would have a conversation, a 360 conversation about all of this today, on Key Point. Also, the National Democratic Congress is calling for the head of the Chief Justice. For what reason? Stay with us. We'll get into it, because now the Ghana Bar Association has waded into this proposal or the calls for an increase in the number of justices at the Apex Court. We also have the Attorney General also weighing on this matter and stating the position that there is a need for more justices at the Supreme Court, giving some details of exactly why this is the case. We'll have a conversation on that this morning here on Key Points. We'll have the Ghana Bar Association and all the relevant stakeholders in this matter joining us for a conversation here on Key Point. So, we'll get into it. And on behalf of the rest of the team, as always, welcome to the Key Point. We'll sink our teeth into the half-year report by the Office of Special Prosecutor, detailing a number of things, including the status report on the Airbus SE scandal, and also Cecilia Abena-Dapaah, the former sanitation minister, and all the matters around here. It is in the OSP's half-year report. We'll tell you about it this morning. On behalf of the rest of the team, welcome to the Key Point. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. We'll start the conversation. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Welcome.
Star 712.
Picture this. Come in Greece. Yeah, and now you were back in Greece. To say why you fit a millionaire. Yes, the luckiest at Aroma. To say about from Massa Echeman. Yeah. Now check this. Sister Abna, aka Kobe Hima. The luckiest at Aroma. Queen B.
Yeah.
Boss said the back up there. Hold on to your seats, folks. Such anyway, be you smooth. Way and your friend will upgrade. Luckiest Adaroma. And the best part that with the luckiest, Obia or a shot to a good life. And I'm talking to you, me, your girlfriend, your ex, your neighbors, your landlords, and even Goro boys. And no one is over dialing with lucky number. Star 712. No.
Coswato ticket to win in the community draw or the grand draw on the 30th of November 2024. The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. TNCs apply.
Dreaming of Asia with your family? Let's make it happen. Join Global Wings Travel and Tours for a 9-day all-inclusive tour of Malaysia and Singapore from September 9th to the 18th, 2024. Experience the best of Malaysia and Singapore. Visit famous tourist sites in both countries. Take car cable ride, try local foods, and relax in luxurious hotels. This incredible package includes return air ticket, Malaysia visa facilitation, 9 nights in a 4-star hotel, daily breakfast and dinner, all taxes, airport transfers, and travel insurance. Join Global Wings this September and create memories that will last a lifetime. Book now by calling or WhatsApping 0553 688 398 or 0550 188 181.
This is Hot Issues, your passport to the most compelling conversations of our time. We go one-on-one with the movers and shakers, the thought leaders, and the game changers. We ask the questions that matter, and we don't back down.
Tonight on Hot Issues, I sit with the man at the Center of Corruption Investigations.
Join me on Hot Issues here on TV3.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
This season, Ghana's Strongest is back with a powerful twist. This is the Duo Edition. Watch as our able-bodied male and female athletes compete in this season's Ghana's Strongest, showcasing their strengths, endurance, and determination. Who will rise to the challenge and claim the title of Ghana's Strongest 2024? Catch all their action, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments. Ghana's Strongest 2024, Sunday 4 p.m. only on TV3. Ghana's Strongest, the power to do. Brought to you by
Deluxe Acrylic Paint, Kivo Foods,
Dragnet, Mixi Choco, Channel Hot,
Frutelli Calipo.
Ghana Muntie.
Get ready for the most glamorous and prestigious pageant in the land. The search for the next GMB Queen has begun.
That's your GMB Queen 2023. Yes!
Join us as we embark on a journey of elegance, poise, and talent, featuring stunning ladies from all 16 regions. Witness the sparkle, the shine, and the splendor as they vie for the coveted crown. Don't miss the grand auditions, the talent, and the flair.
A culture that is rich, blessed, colorful, and energetic.
Tune in to TV3 on 14th of July at 8 p.m. sharp and live on our social media pages as we embark on the quest for the next GMB Queen. It's a royal affair and it starts here.
GMB is sponsored by Gino Tomato Mix,
Techno Common 30,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula, and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula, Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soup, Key Soup, GTP, Kivo Foods.
We are back again on your screens this Saturday, 3 p.m. for Today's Woman, and our guest is Kadiatu Madina Barry, Guinean, but has lived most of her adult life here in Ghana. She's actually been here for over 10 years.
It started pretty early. I paid attention to some rules and regulations that had to be followed when you were home. Then growing up, I realized with friends as well, when you use certain words, it triggers them in a certain way. But when you use those same words in different situations, it actually doesn't trigger them. So I was like, there must be something about what we say, when we say it, and how we say it.
She's into entrepreneurship. She's also a director and a leader at Toastmasters, and effective communication is her niche. Make sure you don't miss Today's Woman this Saturday, 3 p.m. right here on TV3 with me, Cookie.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by
The news never stops. If it's not breaking, developing, the news lends itself to significant analysis, broad context through explainers, and the features that give stories more life. That's what we offer on Weekend Central. News, features, analysis, the full package. Weekend Central, Saturdays and Sundays at 12 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news. Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. Let me just remind you as well, we're on a number of radio stations across the country. And so if you're on the move, one of the best places to listen to us is on 3FM 92.7. And thank you to a number of our viewers and listeners who every week before we get on to Key Point on Saturday, you send me a list of your own issues just to remind me so we don't forget, which I think is really good. It just means that we are citizens and not spectators. And so thank you. The last I received was from Dr. Kwame Asante. He sent me a list of about 10 issues that he thinks we should not lose sight of because we have discussed on the show. But, you know, we wake up to issues every day. We wake up to new things in this country. So it's so difficult sometimes even keeping track of some of the things. But I really do appreciate you, our viewers, for always, you know, I get this many times. And thank you very much for the letters and the emails and also the messages I receive from you. Thank you very much. Let me acknowledge the presence of lawyer Yaobuabia Samoa. He is private legal practitioner. He is former member of parliament for the Adenta constituency, my constituency, and then also now the leader of the, in fact, a close associate and advisor to the leader of the Movement for Change. He's also a former member of, an executive member of the MPP. Yaobuabia Samoa is with us in the studio. Good morning. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Also, Martin Kwebo is private legal practitioner. He is the leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups and the convener for the Kumi Preko demonstration. Lawyer Martin Kwebo, it's good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Ocansey. And as usual, let me greet Gamanche, Kentucky Terrier, right? Tech Uchuru.
Yes.
Kentucky Tech Uchuru. Yes. Forever be grateful, right, for wading into the Cecilia Dapa matter, because this is one case that will never die until we get justice. That one person will have so much money in the house, and yet we are being gaslighted to think that there's nothing wrong with it. When the law says that if you see money that is beyond somebody's income, the first thing you should be thinking about like that is money laundering. And also let's greet Domahini Ajimambedu, or Siadio Ajimambedu, the second, right? Thank you. Right.
And on the back of that, it's a conversation we'll have part of it this morning, because the special prosecutor captured the status update on this case in the half-year report, which we have a copy of. So we'll have a conversation on this as we go on. So yes, it's good that you brought that in. But if you just woke up to the news, well, SNIT has terminated the entire transaction that they were on, defending quite vehemently to engage a strategic investor to revive the fortunes of some 4 hotels that they held, or we, the workers, had 60% shareholding in. That's the development. That news came in at 10 p.m. last night. So I'm sure a number of you are waking up to this. You didn't know. SNIT has terminated the entire transaction after Rock City pulled out. Because, I mean,
but the demo is going on, because the SNIT, the board has to go, Osafumafu has to go, all of them. It shows they lack judgment. The whole SNIT board, they have to go. They didn't see. When people are telling you that this is wrong, then they were digging in their heels. They should go. Elizabeth Ohine and all her board, Osafumafu, the Director General, all of them wipe out. Kenya has come. Organized labor say we are not pulling back until the whole board and all of them they should resign.
So guess what? A number of people are also even asking questions of organized labor as well. So had it not been for someone Okudzeto Ablakwa maybe just leading this entire charge of the exposés, would we have gotten to know of this matter as early as possible? So that's another issue that we have. In fact,
this book, Common Sense, Thomas Paine. That's the same way. When the Americans were being colonized by the British, right? They, you know, because they are kindred at the time. They are kindred. So the Americans didn't want to pull away from the British. They were enduring the humiliation, the tyranny, everything. So Thomas Paine wrote this book. I said, come on, listen. We may be blood, but if your brothers, your sisters are treating you in this despicable manner, subhumane forms, etc., you cannot continue to say we are blood. So the single point is that this book, Common Sense, was revolutionary. That was what pushed them. So I'm saying that one man's book was what pushed them to eventually revolt and seek independence from the British. So it always takes one man. It always takes one man.
And in this instance, it was Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa who is going to be joining us in a bit for a conversation. And this is the book you talk about, Common Sense.
Thomas Paine, or T. Paine.
The Origin and Design of Government. American History Deluxe Edition 1. It's a good one. It's a good read.
Good.
So yes. Well, the Ghana Bar Association this week stepped in to also make their position known. And this call for more judges at the Apex Court, or to be appointed to the Supreme Court. I want to start off with that, and then we'll clear it off the way so that we would have some time to sink our teeth into the latest development with SNIT Rock City, organized labor, and matters arising. Well, so the GBA questioned the procedure used by the Chief Justice, yes, but then again, they were very clear in their minds that we need more justices at the Supreme Court. And they give reasons why that had to be done. And we will be joined shortly by Xavier Kuji, who is private legal practitioner, but most importantly, Head of Public Affairs for the Ghana Bar Association, joining us on Zoom for a conversation on this matter. So we'll get into it. But essentially, Counsel, the real issue hasn't been so much about whether there are more justices needed at the Supreme Court or not, right? It was more of how the process was done, or the intervention sort of, or the request by the Chief Justice. Let's take a listen to the Chief Justice making that very short and quick, at least, demand that we should avert our minds to the real issue about what's happening at the Supreme Court and be able to discuss the issues in the right context. Okay, take a look.
There are several cases pending, right? That's why we need more Supreme Court judges. The discussion must be placed in context.
Well, so that's the Chief Justice there, Gertrude Tokono, her ladyship, making that, and also that bit about separating the issues, which last week we did, and it was quite clear in our minds what exactly we had to do. This is what the GBA put out this week. Let's put that on the screen. The GBA says they agree with the request of the Chief Justice in principle that we need more justices at the Supreme Court. The request must be understood to mean an increase in current number, not fixing minimum number, which will require constitutional amendment. The request must be understood to mean an increase in current number. Also, the request, in their view, judges should have a well-resourced secretariat with properly stocked library, highly qualified and skilled clerks and research assistants, and also the automation of Supreme Court. And finally, Parliament, Council of State, and other stakeholders should be involved in the conversation, in their view. So that's what the Ghana Bar Association is saying on this. And Council, you agree with it, in principle?
We even started saying it, but the GBA lost its voice. These things, especially, you see the last point, Parliament, Council of State, other stakeholders should be involved in the discussion. That was the main point, one of the cardinal points we made last week. That, listen, that conversation is not for the Chief Justice and the President alone. Not at all, because we have said that we are not going beyond 15 judges. In actual fact, if you read the GBA and then our Megache case versus Attorney General, we said 14. But with hindsight, the Constitutional Review Commission, others are saying that that shows that it's 15. So whether 14 or 15, we have said that is law. So if you've made law, okay, and in law, they will tell you that conventions are also law. We've evolved it. The African peer review mechanism under the African Union. Those are the answers we've taken to them. You've presented reports to the African Union, let's just put it simply, the Committee of Nations, African Union. You've told them that Ghana, we are not exceeding 15. So if tomorrow you want to change it, why would it be given to only Chief Justice and the President, just two individuals, when we are 30-something million? When history has shown us that even though we intended the President to be a philosopher king, to be a man of justice, to have so much wisdom, to be kind, etc., but it's shown that no, in reality, he's not such a person. So quickly, you see that no, you don't leave such decisions to the President and the Chief Justice. Quickly, because that's what wisdom is shown us. He's not the philosopher king we intended in the Constitution, that he must be the guardian of all the laws under Article 58, etc. So we will not make that mistake. So it's good that GBA has found his voice, because this is not a decision for 2 or 3 people. No, this is a democracy. Do they have all the knowledge? The 2 of them or 3 of them, if you add the Attorney General, they don't have all the knowledge.
The Judicial Council.
They don't.
The Judicial Council is not made of 1 or 2 or 3 people.
No, I'm saying the context is that the letter went from the Chief Justice to the President.
Yes.
Then the President invited his Attorney General. The very Attorney General who is shown poor judgment in the leak tape and is still holding on to the office. These 3 people, they can't decide for us. They can't. It's not done. It's a democracy. As I have said last week, I even want the national debate should be said that let lay people come in. Let them weigh in, because people have opinions. So, have you seen Kweku, Professor Kweku Asari? He's even disputing the statistics the Chief Justice put out, the way the Chief Justice has done the calculation. He's done a full program where he's showing that no, the statistics don't add up. They don't. So give people like that an opportunity. I've seen other people who've come up with graphs showing that no, what the Chief Justice put together cannot hold master. So it's when we let the debate happen, then you let people who think they also know something come in there and then let them debate. So when we finish and the consensus is that, yes, increase the numbers, so be it. But what certainly cannot happen is 2 or 3 people gathering outside the Judicial Council to increase the numbers. Even the Judicial Council alone, still the same point. It cannot be there alone. The GBA has told you that invite Parliament. The GBA was clear to point out that when they say let Parliament and the Council of State come in, they are not talking about the fact that, under Article 144 Clause 2, when the Judicial Council sends the list, long and short, the Parliament and the Council of State have a role in the approval process.
Essentially.
The GBA say that's not what they are talking about. They are talking about the national debate, the one that we all will gather around the table to discuss whether to increase or not to increase. That debate, that's what that debate is. It's non-negotiable.
I see.
It's non-negotiable.
I'll bring you in, but let me just acknowledge the presence of Xavier Kuji, who is a private legal practitioner. He speaks for the Ghana Bar Association. Kuji, good morning. Thank you for joining us on Key Point.
Good morning, Alfred.
Hello.
Alfred, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I can hear you and see you. Great. Now, first off, the call that you make is that Parliament, Council of State, and other stakeholders should be involved in this discussion of appointing more judges to the Supreme Court. Why?
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers, and thank you for the opportunity. Why? Because the Constitution gives us a minimum of 9 justices, together with the Chief Justice making 10 for the Supreme Court to operate as a well-constituted court. But over the years, we've been operating with a certain conventional number. We're able to do that because the Constitution doesn't set an upper limit. So if we have a certain number that we have been operating with conventionally, and the Chief Justice is making a request that there's a need to expand that number from the current number to 20, then for us, there must be more engagement at the level of everybody, and not only at the level of the nominating authorities and appointing authorities. We recommended Parliament because that's the people's representative. We are not saying this because they are involved in the appointment and approval process, but because we wanted a broad-based engagement relative to the request for the increment in the number.
A mental principle underlying this call is the broad-based engagement that has to take place.
Yes.
Now, so if all of these persons or institutions are engaged, what's the end objective? That's what I want to find out.
The end objective is that we would have agreed as a people to increase our conventional number of Supreme Court justices from the current 15 to 20. We agreed in principle to the increment because of the statistics we had seen. But for the statistics, I am not sure would have agreed.
But for the statistics, you wouldn't have agreed to it.
Of course, because if there's that will warrant the increment in a conventional number, why do we just increase it for the purposes of just increasing?
I see. So the issue is that you are not against the appointment of more justice to the Supreme Court. It is about how it was done in this latest instance involving the Chief Justice's direct request to the President. It's a procedure you have a problem with.
Yes, because what she has done is irregular. That amounts to procedural impropriety.
Procedural impropriety.
She has every right with her team to nominate because her body, her wing or outfit is one of the nominating bodies in addition to the Ghana Bar Association and the Office of the Attorney General. So having nominated her people, she ought to have sent that letter to the Judicial Council and not the President. Because if she was able to do that, then the other bodies will bring their list, and then the Judicial Council will deliberate on that, and depending on the available vacancies, recommendations are made together with an advice to the President. Then the President now can take action, and we move forward from there.
I see. And you talk about the statistics that justifies your position, the reason why you think that this call is important and has to be considered. We'll put that on the screen, and it says summary, the rate of conclusion of cases by the Supreme Court. First, in 2018-2019, the legal year, according to the statistics put out, there were just about 14 justices at the Supreme Court. 70% of cases were concluded. In 2019-2020, the number increased to 18 justices at the Supreme Court. That 60% of the cases, because every year, as it's expected, you have more cases going to the court. So, and then in 2020-2021 legal year, we had 16 Supreme Court justices. 78% of the cases were concluded. And in 2021-2022 legal year, we had 14 Supreme Court justices. 55% of the cases were concluded. Then in 2022-2023 legal year, you had 12 justices at the Supreme Court. 30%. Just 30% of the cases were concluded. So, Mr. Kuji, the Ghana Bar Association is based on these statistics that you say, yes, there is a need for more justice at the Supreme Court. And you say this statistics was questioned or challenged by
lots of and other people.
I didn't get you.
No, I lost you briefly. So I just ran through the statistics. Yes, I just ran through the statistics, and I indicated that it was based on this.
I've heard the statistics, but you mentioned my name. I thought you were going to ask me.
Yes, I did ask you a question. I was saying that, is it on the basis of these statistics that you say there's good reason for more justice at the Supreme Court?
I heard you check out the statistics. Such more people have become aware of their rights, and more cases go to court, not only the Supreme Court, even the lowest court, the district court. So people have become so aware that the moment they are even dissatisfied with the ruling or a judgment of a court, they want to move up by way of an appeal. And the Supreme Court happens to be the final appellate court that we have. So we were not surprised that we have these numbers of cases pending there. So when the request came, we realized that, well, if that is the position, that there will be the need for us to increase that conventional number. But we don't have just to do it through the regular way by just the GBA or the nominating body, so to speak, doing it. So that is why we recommended that there should be a broad-based engagement by involving bodies such as Parliament and the Council of State.
Could you stay with me on this, and let me come in studio, and you know, whenever this conversation comes up, you also take away the political considerations as well, where you hear the talk about the president packing the Supreme Court with judges appointed by him or during his tenure. So when there's this broad consultation, will that cure that concern of a particular president packing the Supreme Court with justice appointed by him so as to be able to get favorable judgments? Perceived as a case. And at this point, let me, with all due respect, also acknowledge the presence of Professor Ransford Jampo. He's a professor of political science at the University of Ghana and a globally respected governance expert. Professor Ransford Jampo, good morning. Welcome.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. Please.
Mr. Ocansey, a couple of preliminary remarks. Let me say a very good morning to my fellow panelists, distinguished Professor Jampo. I feel chuffed sitting close to such knowledge. As for my senior idea, in the next 2 minutes, I know what you will say about corruption.
They've stepped on our testicles twice over.
But thank you.
A couple of preliminary remarks. First of all, I don't agree categorically, and the GTP says so. There's the Great Transformational Plan, that the Supreme Court must be capped.
You don't agree?
The numbers must be capped.
Why? Why do you do
So I'm going to explain. The cap should be 15.
Okay.
15 because simple arithmetic. A full bench is conventionally 9 justices. And then the Constitution says a duly constituted court is not less than 5, subject to Article 33. This is 1282.
133.
1282 of the Constitution tells you how to constitute the court, subject to a variation under 133. And it says 5. So if you have a full bench of 9 and a court of 5, and you add them, that is what? 15, including the Chief Justice. Yes. So the Great Transformational Plan, as the Butterfly Movement is insisting on, says that we must cap them. Now, why are we saying we should cap? And this is where I agree with the GBA. So on one hand, I disagree with them. On the other, I agree with them.
Okay.
I agree with their provision that more junior lawyers, more researchers, and a better work environment should be created. That is where the problem is. And that is what the GTP says. The GTP has, in the governance, says just 2 things on the judiciary. 1, enhance the administration of justice, the necessary infrastructure and logistical support and improvements in the work environment. The second thing is to cap the number. Now, we are saying this because the argument the Chief Justice is making is based on the workload being on individual justices, human beings. So it is built on a superstructure. If the Supreme Court is the roof, they are taking everything straight to the roof without a foundation and superstructure to hold them up. We must invest in the superstructure, the root and the superstructure, so that by the time the cases get to the Supreme Court, they are quickly disposed of. The American Supreme Court is made of 9 justices. Who litigates more than America? Who in this world litigates more than America? And yet, their system of clerkship and research is so strong that you have junior lawyers writing draft opinions for the justices to look at. If you come to Ghana, the Supreme Court's jurisdiction is all, legal arguments. 95% of the cases the Supreme Court deals with do not involve taking original evidence. They don't. They are all based on matters on record that are being litigated as to the merits as to law, which means that anybody worth his salt with legal research skills can draft an opinion based on reading the record and comparing it to the law. So if you have adequate support for the court, if every justice has an infrastructure, including enough junior lawyers, and we have lawyers qualifying from law school or seeking internship from law school, who don't even have chambers to go to, because the system is not resilient and patched in enough. We don't even have enough lawyers in this country, and we are complaining about qualifying lawyers. So I'm saying that what you do is strengthen the administrative support, the legal technical support behind each justice. And once you do that, 95% of the cases coming before that justice is based on rendering a legal opinion, legal arguments. So whoever is supporting can read through those legal arguments and make an analysis compared to precedent and be able to deliver a draft framework for a justice to apply the final. In that case, matters will move very, very swiftly. The court will sit and things will flow very fast. But if you want a judge to sit down and read the record and make a determination, do a framework, then 50 judges will not be enough. We will keep increasing the judges. Because the cases are coming and flowing in and flowing in. And we are neglecting building them up and we are expecting them as individuals to do. It doesn't work that way. So we must, the bottom line is that we must invest in the administration of justice, not just at the Supreme Court level, also at the basic level, because we are training these justices. Some of the decisions that come out of the lower courts are dangerous. They are dangerous. Have you seen a judge doing a winding up and saying, go and share the things equally?
Go and share the things what?
Maybe Martin will explain it. If you have a procedure for winding up a company, there are standard steps you take.
Right.
You know, and you move your liabilities to a point where there are certain things left over. And then there's administration of it and all that. And you go to court and the judge tells you you are going to wind up, you have a dispute with your partner, the judge tells you go and share the things equally.
You are the only ones who know what that means.
So what I'm saying is that what we are neglecting and trying to personalize and transfer to the knowledge of individual justices is the work environment, the depth and strength of the support infrastructure, legal, technical, and administrative, so that by the time the work gets to the judge, it's literally done. Because then the flow will be faster. If a judge comes into the office in the morning, Supreme Court Justice, and there are 5 dockets, and all of them are framework analysis, all he has to do is go through the framework, compare it to light reading, summaries, and everything. And he's on the move. He can make several decisions in a day. He can make several determinations. The Supreme Court will sit and make several determinations in a day. So, Mr. Ocansey, the bottom line is that we do not need any more Supreme Court justices. The investment in a single justice could bring us several more lawyers, several more researchers to help the current justices and make them even more efficient. So when it comes to political bias and all those things, it all goes to responsibility of us individuals. And today, I hope to raise that matter in the SNIT case, because the notion of institutions is based on a 4-flow process. You have the law, you have the, what do you call it? How do I put it? I had it somewhere. You have the law, you have the appointments, then you have the tenure, and you have accountability.
Accountability.
Okay?
Right.
So the law sets up the institution, and then somebody appoints people to that institution. In our case, often the president. And then tenure gives you the conditions under which you work after your appointment. And part of those conditions is that you should be accountable to us at the end of the day. But you will tend to find that in our system, because the appointment process is so skewed to the authority of the president, people appointed ignore the independence their tenure affords them. And they work towards the president instead of working to be accountable to all of us. That is our biggest problem undermining institutions in this country. So as Martin was saying, if you sack the current SNIT board, the new lot will be appointed by the president according to the law. Will they be any better? So that will they have more spine?
Nothing really changes.
Nothing really changes unless we
put
go
new
to the
wine
root
into
of
old
the
wine
institutional difficulties. That's why I'm saying that as far as judiciary is concerned, I agree with the GBA to the extent that they, in their rendering, they said that we must look at the work environment, deepen the support to the current justices, deepen the support not only to the Supreme Court, but to the other levels, so that we have reasoned judgments that come out, that are fair, that are swift, you know, and that will create confidence and certainty in the sanctity of the courts. And the judicial system.
Okay, thank you. And you know, that reference that you make to the U.S. system, the majority in Parliament addressed a press conference this week, And they said, look, some people make reference to the US system without an understanding of it, because it cannot be the reason why we should be arguing for a capping of the justice at the Supreme Court. I want to take a listen to Alexander Penyomarkin in response to some of the things that you said.
And I also respond to that.
Yeah.
The Chief Justice did not just write a letter sitting on stilts. She justified it and made very compelling arguments. In fact, as per what we have become aware, the Ghana Bar Association was duly consulted, and the Bar Association, in principle, agreed to say. Other stakeholders also agreed to the need to expand our courts. But the argument which we in the majority caucus disagree with is the argument of timing. What is it about the timing? An institution like the judiciary, with its constitutional mandate to deliver justice, is not bound by election timetable of the country. The impression they try to create is that all that the Supreme Court does is to determine political cases. But I can tell you on good authority that the Supreme Court of Ghana, the political cases that perhaps go there may not even be up to 2% of the cases that they deal with, go into issues of jurisdiction. The primary objection to the recent recommendation for appointment to the Supreme Court is on the back of a certain justification that judges in the Supreme Court, a big country like Supreme Court, United States, are not even up to 10. For the avoidance of doubt, in the US, United States Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court of the US, doesn't have original powers, mandate, jurisdiction.
So that's Alexander Penyomarkin's position on this US-Ghana comparison that we make. And then the issue about timing, which we'll touch on briefly. So, so it says we cannot necessarily draw that parallel lines and try to justify that argument that there should necessarily be a capping because of what's happening in the United States.
I think the majority leaders' arguments do not hold water, and we are all entitled to our opinions. That's the last clause in the GBA thing, which is broad consultation. We are all speaking our minds. I don't think his arguments hold water. He hasn't proven anything that goes to show, based on the Chief Justice's statistics, that they are overwhelmed and that the fulcrum of the problem should be an increase in individual justices. He hasn't made the argument about the administrative structure. If you go to the US, yes, it's a federal Supreme Court. There are state Supreme Courts. There are district courts and otherwise. And yet, cases travel up to that federal Supreme Court. If he is to persuade us, he must show us the statistics that show that that court is sitting idle because it doesn't have original jurisdiction. In any event, how much original jurisdiction does the Ghanaian Supreme Court have? Only perhaps in treason and what do you call it? Its own contempt and fundamental human rights.
He's talking about the judicial review, constitutional interpretation.
Yeah, those original.
But you have
how
a point.
often?
Both of you do
even
have a
that
point.
one, even with constitutional review, it's a matter of legal arguments. It's not evidence. If you go to the Supreme Court for the original jurisdiction of an enforcement or an interpretation of the Constitution, you go per legal arguments. You don't go per evidence. So what I'm saying still holds water. That if you are diligent enough and your process is timely and tight enough, lawyers will be diligent to provide the legal arguments that judges can work with a very solid supportive ecosystem. Because their delivery will depend on the quality of the ecosystem that you have, not the numbers. And it doesn't depend on original jurisdiction. So, and in any event, yes, appeals come to the Supreme Court as of right. Again, if you go to appeals, they are based on record. Appeals are based on record. Appeals from the High Court to the Appeal Court to the Supreme Court. It's a record. As soon as it leaves the originating court, that is the High Court or the Circuit Court, the lower court to the High Court, that's where you take the evidence. Then, as soon as it comes to the Court of Appeal, it becomes a matter of legal record. Right. Unless you develop fresh evidence to justify what you are doing. And even then, fresh evidence, how much of it will it be? You understand? Okay. So, what I'm trying to let the majority leader understand is that the parallels and dismissing what the United States has in a 9-member court will not wash. Okay. Because that 9-member court is busier than our Supreme Court, in spite of the fact that they don't have original jurisdiction. Their work is good because they have superior clerking with good quality lawyers behind them. And good research. They have an environment of research, everything, and they only deal with the quasi-finished product. And that is what we must aim for.
All right, thank you very much. And Professor Ramso Jampo, so in the end, you are looking at the numbers as I put there, and obviously a speedy conclusion of cases that are taken to the Supreme Court.
I'm sorry, but then let me deal with the timing.
No,
the perception of parking. That's the original question you asked me.
No, it wasn't an original question. You are responding. No. You have 1 minute on that.
Yeah, 1 minute.
To move on.
If you continue to make appointments to the court, even out there and everywhere, the perception about political influence, you can't get rid of.
Take it away from.
And the fact of the matter is that even if we know where the judges stand politically, it helps with public perception.
We should know where the judges stand politically.
It's all a social process.
Which political party that they support?
It's a social process.
I see.
But if you go to the American Supreme Court, even before you are nominated, your track record as a Republican or a Democrat, we know at
have we
point whether the court is a conservative court or a liberal court.
Have we matured to that point? And then this is why I bring in Professor Jampo, to that point where we can safely have Supreme Court justices, the political affiliations put out.
Not yet.
As in the case of
not yet, because even without that, we are abusing the system. Because until you resolve their strength and confidence in their tenure and appointment processes, and they believe in their hearts that they are independent, they cannot expose where they stand. Because somebody can be principled. You can know where the person stands politically, and yet when it comes to a matter of principle, the person will stand on their feet and say that this is principled, and I will insist on this.
Right.
That is what tenure is supposed to do. Tenure is supposed to protect public officers so that they are disciplined and they stand for principle in spite of the appointing authority. Okay. Because once somebody appoints you, their power over you diminishes.
Thank you. Right, Professor Jampo, on this, this particular debate on the appointment of justice at the Supreme Court and the fact that GBA, their position says there are too many cases that are pending. We need a lot more to be able to execute it. Someone thinks differently. We have efficiency over numbers. It would be able to help.
So, good morning to my co-panelists. I've not made my preliminary comments, and I would make those comments before I tackle these issues that, in my view, do not put food on the table of Ghanaians. If we do not satisfy the hunger of Ghanaians, these institutions cannot even exist.
Indeed.
For an independent-minded person who suddenly is afraid of the persona of the president and so is behaving out of character, to be talking about some of these things. See, in my house, I'm the one who goes to the market. I'm the one who goes to market in my house.
Good.
It is not because I don't want to give monies to... But the point is that every other Saturday that I'm not here, I go to play football, okay, at the La Nkwantanang Park in Medina, which is just behind the Medina market. So after playing football, I ride my bike through the market, okay, or I drive through the market and come home. So I don't see why I would drive through the markets and see tomatoes and knowing that we need tomatoes.
You will not buy.
I won't buy and go home and then send that to people. So I buy all the food stuff myself. And when people see you, they are, hey, are you? People will pass and then come and tap you. Are you Prof. Jampo? I said yes. So I got a lot of fans at the market. So let me tell you, last week, my daughter said she had prepared some stew. I said, oh, you didn't give me some. She said, oh, it was not enough. and that I went to buy tomatoes, three pieces for 20 cedis. And I said, how? Said 20 cedis.
Fruits.
Well, you will, okay. 20 cedis, 3, 1, 2, 3, 20 cedis. I said, how about, you are lying. He said, but I've been buying one paint bucket. I used to buy it, one paint bucket of tomato.
For that much?
At 35 cedis. And then it moved to 50, which was normal. And then it moved to 55, 60 cedis. Then my daughter is telling me that now 1, 2, 3, it's 20 cedis. So the next day, I decided to go there myself. The one paint bucket, which I used to buy for 50, which was 35, moved to 50, it went to 65. They sold it to me 220 cedis, one paint, and I had to buy 2. So 440 cedis. Tomatoes. You are here thinking about packing courts with judges. Tomatoes. 2 paint buckets. 440. I used to buy them. So 60 plus 60, 120 is now 440.
3 weeks ago, I bought some. We've been for the past 4 weeks.
Then I said I'll buy plantain, the rotten one, the one that are getting rotten. They said it is gold. I said now plantain is gold. The rotten one. The fingers were like 4 or 6. Said if you can't pay 180 cedis, I'll not give it to you. Then Olonka pepper, which used to be 20 cedis, moved to 30 cedis. Now they said 70 cedis. We are in Ghana. Things are so hard. Things are so difficult.
This is an agrarian economy.
We are suffering massive food inflation. Yesterday, I listened to your the TV3 News's consumer price index analysis, where they argued that 1,000 cedis in 2021, if you are paid 1,000 cedis in 2021, in 2024, it's 440 cedis.
Essentially, yes.
1,000 cedis is 440 cedis.
That's the impact of
and
the time.
You are sitting now, what are we talking about? You see, we are measuring on minor issues. Please, the argument to want to pack the courts is bogus. We are interested in what the people of Ghana are saying, and not the whimsical and capricious desires of people who are suddenly behaving out of character because of the fear, the morbid fear of the persona of Ghana's political king kong, Nana Akufo-Addo. What did Ghanaians say about the Supreme Court judges and the number of judges that they want to have? In the study that audited Ghana's gap, in the gaps in Ghana's democracy, called the Democracy Consolidation Strategy paper, one problem that was identified with the judges was that because the Supreme Court is not capped, judges in the Supreme Court is not capped, we can't have finality to a matter, and then you have a daring president who, when a matter goes against him and he doesn't like, and the judges are, you remember there was a case, was it involving Chachikata or something? Where he was
the review process.
The review process, he was victorious, and then when he was victorious, it pained the president. So he quickly added more judges, and then they overturned. So if there is a case, and then the judges are sitting, and the judgment goes against the president, who is daring, who can appoint, he will just say, well, okay, it's gone, round 1, it's gone against me. Then quickly he will appoint other judges to the Supreme Court, say, go and sit and review the same matter. How will you expect them to act and behave? That is one. And so the point is, Ghanaians, when they were consulted, when we decided that the Constitution of Ghana had served us well, nevertheless, it contains provisions that hinder our drive to democratic maturity, and so it should be reviewed. On the judiciary, when the Constitutional Review Commission undertook a nationwide public consultation, please, Listen to this. The Constitutional Review Commission, when they undertook a nationwide public consultation of Ghanaians, not a nationwide public consultation of some judges, not a nationwide public consultation of one CJ, not a nationwide public consultation of some silent and all of a sudden wanting to talk Ghana Bar Association, but they consulted all Ghanaians. Mind you, the Constitution of Ghana was drafted by Ghanaians. The Ghana Bar Association lawyers, they boycotted the process. It was the ordinary Ghanaians who drafted the 1992 Constitution without the GBA. In contest. I'm saying that the Ghana Bar Association, they were not part of drafting the Ghana. No, let me make my point. So the point I'm trying to say is that it is our Constitution. We, the ordinary people, we drafted the Constitution.
That's right.
Ghana Bar Association, the judges, and the CJ and his people, they were not part.
But there are some judges.
Oh, let me finish. Well, Ghana Bar Association, they were not part. Now we have drafted our Constitution, okay, and when we felt that there was a problem, and when we were consulted, we said that no, you cannot continue to pack the courts. So let there be a cap, okay. When this matter came up, I remember, in one public discourse and one judgment, the celebrated Justice William Atuguba said, look, we cannot go more than 14.
Okay.
And people there, the panels and everybody, they upheld that view. Now, the African peer review mechanism and that the new partnership for African development, okay, they also expressed concern about the continuous packing or over appointment of judges to the Supreme Court. And they also said that we should have a cap. And it was around the same time that the idea of not going beyond 14 came. Okay. Oh, please. I've not started. Please.
No. Hold on.
Yes. So that was the idea around the time that the idea of not going beyond 14, came. So I do not understand why we want to. If you are talking about the U.S. case, then some people who are not so much inquiring in their mind, they are so dismissive that, look, you cannot compare the U.S. case to Ghana's case. And they are arguing that in the U.S., the states, the states can even have their Supreme Court. But let me tell them that, you see, one state in U.S. can be bigger than the whole of Ghana. One state in U.S. can be bigger than the whole of Ghana. And even there, if let's agree that the states have their own Supreme Court, but they do not also pack their Supreme Courts like what we are seeking to do. Okay? So, Madam Chief Justice, I think you may mean well, but let's listen to what the people of Ghana said. In the Constitutional Review Commission's report, there is much wisdom when you put all the views of the people together than your own view. You are seeking to please the president who has been accused over the years for packing the courts with his own people. And so don't play into his hands, because as for this president, if you give it to him, he will not say no. He will take it. And you see, the timing, I heard Afenyo Makin saying people are talking about time. That young man, I don't know. Sometimes
you have a contrary view.
We should be reasonable.
It's not so much about him.
Well, okay, not so much about him. But you see, sometimes he sounds very reasonable, but sometimes he's also too overly partisan. Don't put hurdles in my way. Let me finish. Sometimes he's overly.
You have a contrary view. That's what I'm saying. It's not about him as a person. So I want you to take your contrary view.
Well, no problem. So he's saying that we shouldn't talk about the timing. Okay? When I say what my father tells me, you say I've been talking about my father too much. But my father says a bad thing is a good thing done at the wrong time. Okay, we are going just how many months to elections? You have a president who 4 months, 5 months to election is appointing an ambassador at large. So what is wrong with us? What is the diplomatic issue that is challenges that we are suffering from that our ambassadors have not been able to address, and that 4-5 months elections there is an ambassador at large.
Okay.
And you want to now increase the number of judges from 15 to 20? I think it doesn't make sense to me. I disagree, and I am more interested in redoing things that address the challenges, fundamental challenges confronting the good people of Ghana. I would have applauded the Chief Justice if she had said that the cost of tomatoes, basic commodities, are so high, and putting pressure, making recommendations, sending memos to the president that let us do something about some of these things. Unfortunately, this is who we are as a people. See, we have elected a people, selected a people to govern us, to tackle our fundamental challenges, and we have insulated them from experiencing these challenges. So when I'm talking about 3 tomatoes costing 20 cedis, the president and his appointees, the Chief Justice, they don't feel these things because they've been insulated. We appointed them, and then we are paying them good. We are giving them cooks, we are giving them chefs, we are giving them drivers, we are giving them money even when they want to go and have fun and entertain themselves. We pay for it. So we have insulated them. So when you talk about things being difficult, they can't feel it. And so it becomes difficult when they said you are doing something too much. But the point is that, look, if they would go down to listen to the views of the ordinary Ghanaians about the hardships, I think they will temper some of their bold claims. Sometimes you hear politicians on platform touting bold claims, and I said the only reason why you continue to do this is that the people are either overly partisan or they are ignorant. But gradually we are getting there. For once, we've been able to bring everybody together. There's been mounting pressure on this SNIT sale thing, and now we are seeing what is happening. At one point in time, when Parliament said they wanted to build a chamber, we saw how people came together. Yes. So gradually we are getting there. Mr. Politician, you cannot continue to be fooling Ghanaians by telling them that they are satisfied when they are hungry. Okay. You cannot use your own belly full to determine the content of the belly of poor Ghanaians.
Well, Professor Jampo, thank you. But then again, your last statement leads us into the next issue that we want to talk about, because the issues of timing and all of that has been dealt with. So as we are progressing, if there are issues that I would have to draw your attention to, I will do that respectfully as a host of this program. Now, we're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com, and then also on a number of radio stations across the country. There's a question to Lawyer Martin Pebu, which we would address as we go on.
Okay.
But the man of the moment, suffice to say, before the lack of better expression.
Yes. Oh, that is it. Indeed. He's the man of the moment. It always takes one man.
Okudzeto Ablakwa is joining us now for the next conversation. And then also, while we are at it, lawyer, in a minute, yes, indeed, the case, for example, was right about the GBA boycotting this constitutional, the drafting of the constitution.
Yes.
But then again, there were some judges who were
lawyers and those Francois Ansasa, Kuku Ansasa, former director of the law school. Then Nana Dr. SKB Asante, lawyer.
So that's just to put the issues in context.
Except that it doesn't mean we support. No, the constitution is bad. That one, this constitution is very bad, so right? We want to throw it out.
If we implement the recommendations in the review process, the Constitutional Review Commission that we spent money on,
it doesn't go far enough. You see, the
so we should do away with the entire constitution.
Yes. We need to restructure the presidency. This one-man presidency is a bad thing.
We can have this conversation. In fact, I promise you that the next time you're here, we would have this conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean,
the cost of justice.
I want to play this conversation that Brian Achampong, who is the owner of Rock City, it was the strategic partner that was selected for this entire SNIT transaction, which has been terminated now. He had this conversation with Omar Osanda of City FM yesterday in the evening. And Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa was on as well, but there are a number of things that he said that were not responded to. But if you are new to this, for the uninitiated, SNIT has issued a statement. It came through last night around 10 p.m., communicating the decision to terminate this entire transaction after Rock City pulled out. And then the notice of strike by the Labour TUC and its entire members. So this is what Brian Achampong said. And Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa will join us right now. Take a listen.
On this issue of bank guarantee, there is nowhere in any document of SNIT did they require Rock City to provide, or any of the companies bidding to provide a bank guarantee. There was no way. You should show us. During the negotiations, I'm told Rock City proposed to pay 50% and the remaining 50% spread over 2 years. That is when SNIT requested for a bank guarantee. And it was at the point that Rock City had been offered as a preferred bidder. They were the only ones negotiating with SNIT because all the others had not gotten to the negotiation stage. So it is not the case that Rock City was given a preferential treatment that all others were not given. No. After you have won, you go into the negotiations on how you intend to perform the act. It is at that point that they said, we will pay 50%. Then SNIT said, the other 50%, we need a guarantee. Rock City said, no, we are all going to be partners in this investment. Allow us to invest in the capex. The transaction advisor did not agree to that. That is a normal business transaction. This is not favoritism. So why is this young man going on and on and on about things that he has no clue about? Thirdly, he talks about me owning shares in a company called Rock City. He owns shares in a company called Volta Cleanup. He claims that it is a farm, and he has no certificate. Just like I own shares in Rock City, I'm a beneficial owner of Rock City, and I don't have a certificate. It's been everywhere, and this argument of his is not holding water. But he intends to obfuscate the issues and throw in things like state capture and this. If we are to go through every divestiture in this country, he will have no grounds to stand on. Rock City 4 officially has withdrawn its bid. Monday, him and I, as politicians, we will start a business of talking. And whatever we need to expose, he will see where his stand will be from next week.
So that's Brian Achampong, a Betifi Member of Parliament, the Minister for Agric, the owner of Rock City, the strategic investor that was selected by SNIT after they went through the process which started as far back as 2018 to take over 60% of its shares in 4 hotels. When this matter, at least a number of us got to know of this matter when Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa started the expose. It's been almost 5 months now, consistently. And we are at this point where on Thursday, it was actually a shock to a number of us when the Labour and Employment Relations Minister Ignatius Bafoyo went to Parliament and indicated that the National Pensions Regulatory Authority had okayed this sale of 60% shares in the 4 hotels owned by essentially we, the workers. Taking into consideration the NPRA's previous position on this matter, they issued a statement that SNIT should halt the entire process leading to the sale of its 60% shares in these 4 hotels. So if NPRA's position had changed, we in the media were expecting an official communication. That has not happened. The minister just said it in response to a question or so on the floor of Parliament, and that was it. In fact, I got a call last night around 11:30 p.m., for example, from somebody within the NPRA that statement by the minister was alien to a number of them. And this is not some person at middle level, right? And I'm not going to disclose the identity of my source. So that brings up another question altogether, which I'm looking into. So as to how that statement was made by the minister on the floor of Parliament, but the NPRA's approval of this sale is an issue, which even after all of this termination, we may be minded to still ask, because in this country we know some things go around and come back rebranded and repackaged. So we'll have to find out. But the man who started all of this is with us in the studio. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is a member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency. He is the chief interceptor and exposer. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, good morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning, Alfred. Good to see you. And good morning to Prof. Good morning to my brother, the Honorable Bobby Asamoah.
Let some Ghanaians who think that we are not producing anything know that some of us, we produced you. And we are proud of the kinds of things that you are doing.
That's my lecture.
Yes.
I'm grateful.
Thank you. We are proud of the kinds of things that you are doing for Mother Ghana. Ghanaians, these are the people we trained in the Department of Political Science. Let's all emulate the kinds of things that he's doing. And stop telling us that you teach theory, but when we get to the field, it is practical and you have to be resorting to things that you were not taught in the lecture hall. Sami, kudos.
Thank you very much. It's not everybody who gets this high praise from their lecturers.
From their lecturers.
I'm most humbled.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
And Professor Jampo has just taken the wind of congratulations out of myself, which is in the right place. As a matter of fact, congratulations is in order for this, and to the extent that many people, if not all Ghanaians, wouldn't have known this had it not been for you. And that's why there are some who will still ask questions of labor. And Professor Jampo here is president of the UTAG Legon, as to why you had representatives, 4 of them, on this SNIT board. And if this process started as far back as 2018, and we're going for board meetings that they were giving minutes and updates of this process from the point where the international bidding started through to when a transaction advisor was engaged, through to when the selection process started. You had a number of companies that applied and the shortlisting was done, all the way to when Rock City was selected and the processes started, because some Okudzeto Ablakwa did tell me the last time he was here that this transaction had traveled very far. So does that mean that the board was not being updated every step of the way? And did you UTAG, who are members of TUC, were you ever briefed?
You see, let me say this about representation. You see, there are 4 models, but let me talk about 2 models. There is a trusteeship model of representation, and then there is a delegate model of representation. Now, when you operate the political trusteeship model of representation, it assumes that the representative is an expert in an area who must go represent you without necessarily consulting you and acting in a manner responsive to your interest. So if all of us are here, and then one of us is a medical doctor, and then Ghana Medical Association is looking for one representative from amongst us.
Yes.
Naturally becomes a medical doctor amongst us who will go and represent us.
Perfect.
And because we are not doctors, there are certain technical issues when raised there. He must not consult us because he may be pandering then to our ignorance. We may not know. So then he would have to act in a manner responsive to our interests. That is a representative who is a delegate. But the theory says that when the issue at stake is of direct importance and interest to the constituents, then you cannot pretend to understand the constituents more than the constituent themselves. So in that case, even if you are a trustee, you must go back to your constituent. Okay? Now, the representatives of Labour on these boards acted like trustees, and even when the matter under discussion was so much of direct consequence to the pensions of their constituents, they still wanted to act like trustees. So I think that Labour going forward would have to rethink the caliber of people it appoints to these boards, and then also those appointed. I think we must warn them that when you go, you must come back home. When you go, you must go back to your constituents and give them feedback. Let them know what is going on so that their views, their sentiments, their beliefs, and what they stand for can help in shaping your arguments, you know, at such boards. So I think the representation of Labour on these boards did not act in a manner responsive to the interests of Labour. And so I wouldn't mind if there is a call that the board itself should be dissolved and our representative should be recalled. And let us put people whose views, people who would see the need. A delegate always would have a delegate model, or a representative who is a delegate is always seen as somebody who may not have a view of his own. When you go and there is an issue, you go back to your constituents and take their views. Right. But of course, that wastes time. And so you operate the trusteeship model of representation, all right. But when it becomes extremely necessary, and when the matter is of direct, this is pension, people's pension. And so I don't see why you can pretend to understand our pension and how issues about it that will affect our lives. You can pretend to understand those issues more than we ourselves. So the board, I've heard calls that the board should be dissolved, and then our representation on the board, they should be recalled because they have been abysmal and shambolic in their quest to represent the interest of Labour. But like I said, kudos to Sammy. He took off at a time when Labour was about, starting. And some of us felt, some people felt about why can't Labour do it on their own? I said no. But if somebody has started, we can all rally behind the person. And today, if it is true that SNIT has terminated the sale of 60% of its shares, let us know, because on the platform, and the labor unions are saying, regardless of what has happened, from Monday there is going to be strike. Okay, so it is important that then this statement go viral for all of them to see.
For example, let's put that on that statement on the screen right now. The statement, we have a copy of it. That's it. That's it on the screen.
Okay.
It's a media release that came last night around 10 p.m. That's why you don't. In fact, it was around 10:45 thereabout. The board and management of Social Security and National Insurance Trust SNIT wish to inform the public that the process to divest 60% of SNIT's stake in the hotels has been terminated. We wish to assure pensioners, contributors, and the public of our commitment to managing the affairs of the trust prudently for the sustainability of the pension scheme. Signed, Elizabeth Ekiohene, who is the chair of the SNIT board. So that is the statement that came through before we went to bed last night. Let's scroll back again up. Right? In fact, if you go on 3news.com, you'll find the full complement of that statement right there. So this is the media release that came. So, for example, that is it indeed. And this statement is not just coming from the SNIT, but signed by the board chair. So if you hear Professor Ransford Jampo speaking passionately, it is because he is the president of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, Legon branch, of which is a member of
organized labor,
organized labor for that matter. And so if he speaks about the representatives of labor not doing too well on the board of SNIT in this matter, speaking from the labor perspective, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Now, this is the end. Would I say, will this be the end of the fight after this SNIT communication that they have terminated this entire transaction?
Well, let me begin by extending very warm regards to all the distinguished viewers of TV3. I will want to immediately declare this a victory for the Ghanaian people. It is not a personal victory. It is a victory for the Ghanaian people. It is a victory for organized labor. Indeed, but for organized labor supporting this crusade and declaring a nationwide strike, a total lockdown, if you like. And I don't recall the last time in our history that we saw such unanimity on the labor front. To have the TUC, the Ghana Federation of Labor, the Ghana Medical Association, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, all the teacher unions, pre-tertiary, tertiary, to have utility workers unions, every labor organizations, including JUSAC, the Judicial Service Staff Association,
mortuary workers.
Mortuary workers. I don't recall.
DPRT of PUC.
Probably the 1948 riots. What gave the final push for independence? If you look at the history of our country, so labor ought to be celebrated, and those who have had doubts about the ability of Ghanaians to get recalcitrant, intransigent, belligerent politicians to listen to the people. This is your answer. That real power belongs to the people. Because on this matter, the president refused to listen, met organized labor, and rather sought to convince organized labor to come along. We filed questions in Parliament. The Minister of Employment came to tell us less than 2 weeks after the MPRA statement instructing SNIT to suspend the processes and that they were going to conduct a review. Suddenly the MPRA, according to the Employment Minister, became the most efficient organization the world has ever known. That for such a major transaction, we're talking about multiple bids, multiple laws, many issues raised by the transaction advisor, and I'll be coming to the transaction advisor's report shortly. In less than 2 weeks, the employment minister wanted us to believe that they have conducted a review, everything was above board, and that he can tell us authoritatively, to quote him verbatim, as he said in Parliament, that MPRA has asked SNIT to proceed. So all of us then said, look, enough is enough. We must let the government know that sovereignty resides in the people. Real power belongs to the people. You cannot continue to take us for a ride. And so this morning, I am here to salute all workers of Ghana. Organized labor has done a phenomenal job. Yes, I started this, exposed a lot of angles, intercepted a lot of documents, but if we didn't get the support from the Ghanaian people, from organized labor, the thousands who poured out on the streets on the 18th of June, which served as the catalyst to raise awareness, to let those who are engaged in this obnoxious, obscene transaction know that the Ghanaian people will not sit idle and allow this deal to go through. All of those people who responded to our call, their sacrifices, their toils have not been in vain. The chiefs, I mean, that was a demonstration that was led by chiefs. And I don't recall the last time in our history to have our revered Ga chiefs, the Wulomai, all the chief priests, say that, look, we are not just going to give you our blessings and see you off and we return to our palaces. We will participate to the very end. and will be with you to the presentation of your petition to whoever is sent by the president at the Jubilee House. I celebrate the chiefs, the young people of our country, those who were tear gassed. It's only last week the last victim was discharged from the Legon Hospital, and I want to tell all of them that clearly their sacrifices have not been in vain. And when this chapter of Ghanaian history is written, all of them will feature. They can look back and say that when duty called, when the national interest was at stake, when workers' pensions, because you see, these hotels fundamentally were built by workers' contributions. Their returns on investment is what will take care of workers when in their twilight, when all of us can no longer have the energy to work, we expect that these assets will take care of us. And how government thought that it could cook such an arrangement without broad-based consultation, without involving parliament, involving the workers, and without transparency, it's mind-boggling. So we celebrate the Ghanaian people. Now, let me also emphasize, Alfred, and this is very important. Many people have said, oh, is this not just an interim political gimmick? That are we not doing this because we are in opposition now? And that perhaps if the buyer was NDC, you won't have me oppose this. I want to state emphatically that, look, this is not about partisanship. All the organized labor leaders who issue statements, nobody can convince me that all of them vote in one direction or belong to one political party. I think that would be an insult. So what we are doing is about the national interest, it's about principle. And I have been consistent for more than 16 years. You remember when I went to the Supreme Court? I have always said that public officials, politically exposed persons, should stay away from the purchase of state assets. Let me announce this morning that the private members bill that I'm working on, I'm sponsoring with a number of lawyers. We are in the final stages. We are calling the bill, today I can announce the name of that bill, we are calling it the Public Assets Protection Bill.
Public Assets
Protection Bill. And that law, which I'm hoping that the president will assent to it, it will prohibit all politicians and politically exposed persons, whether directly or indirectly, from purchasing state assets. Indeed, when you leave office, under the draft, we are saying that it should take 5 years at least before you can go near any public transaction. And this covers everything, whether it's a car, which is for the public, which is for the state, whether it is a bungalow, whether it is land, whether it is forest, whatever, because we have seen all kinds of things. I don't want to remind viewers this morning, it's very early in the day, what we have seen ending up in people's wills and all of that. All kinds of state assets, strategic national assets, which have been hijacked by politicians. We are saying that we are going to pass this Public Asset Protection Bill. The other thing which I like about this bill, which we will be putting forward very soon, I will subject it to public scrutiny. Do you know, Alfred, that if you are to go to our ministries, department, and agencies today and ask for a list of state assets, you won't get it.
You will not get it?
You won't get it.
The list?
The record keeping is so poor and it's been deliberately made so.
To whose benefit?
Do you know that as we speak, they can't even tell us how many bungalows we have in the name of the state? They can't tell us. So this bill, and I have insisted, we are going to have a provision which will mandate the publication of all state assets. It must be put online. So we will know. When you start selling, we will know that this is a public asset you are trying to sell. We want every state asset documented. The last time in Parliament we asked, and this has happened twice, we've asked the lands minister to provide a list, a total breakdown of state lands across the country. It's been impossible up to now.
They have not been.
They have not been able to provide it. Can you believe that?
The state lands.
State lands. The Lands and Natural Resources Minister could not provide that. We also asked how many have been sold and who it has been sold to. He's not been able to provide it. He said we should give him time.
I recall that after this incident with the late Sir John, the ministry said they were going to bring, in fact, publish the persons who have bought state lands right from 1992 to date.
We asked in Parliament.
Do you
we don't have it. We still don't have it. The last time we reminded him, he responded with a threat that, do we know what will happen to the political class?
If we get that information, because a number of you have bought state lands.
And I said, so what? So what? Look, the political class should know that these things, this conduct, will one day be made public. Because I've never understood how. Look, you come into public office, these assets are put under your care, protected for all of us. Actually, what you should be telling us is how well you have protected these assets and how you have added more value, how you have increased these assets. Look, when was the last time, Alfred, you heard of the current generation of leaders having acquired a land bank or some strategic asset that we are saving for the future? As for us, we only came to sell. Our generation, that's all we came to do. So all of what Nkrumah left for us.
It is not our generation. I mean, you and I.
Not our generation.
The generation.
The generation of the current leaders.
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
they didn't come to act. They came to sell.
The current leader. I'm only saying that
a generation of sellers.
Yes. I mean, you look at the assets that we inherited. Land banks, forests, environmental, horticultural sites, all of them today, instead of us at least to preserve. And Kwame Nkrumah's era, the population was below 5 million, and yet they could really secure even land for bungalows. They knew that the civil service will expand. You will need more workers. Your population will grow. When they were building hospitals, they knew that you need to have doctors and nurses in close proximity. When there are emergencies, they can respond. And they made sure that they secured land. Today, all of that land, go to Rich, go to Kolebu. Everything has been sold. So this law, this private members bill, is going to insist that there has to be a database of all our assets, all lands, all cars, all bungalows. Have you been following my recent exposés?
On the
parks and gardens?
Well, the minister said
when I summoned the local government minister, I mean, he cut a very lowly image. I was impressed with his sincerity, but you could tell that he doesn't have support in the government. A private developer goes to put containers on parks and gardens, the only horticultural zone we have in Accra at Cantonment, that he has bought it. His Danny Ike Real Estate Developers Limited is for him. Can you believe that? So parks and garden staff go to work and they are told that, hey, your days are numbered. This is for parks and gardens. I mean, we are not even thinking about our human survival. Then you have seen what I put out a few days ago on the W.E.B. Du Bois Center. I'm glad that an intellectual is here. W.E.B. Du Bois, the first black doctorate graduate from Harvard, who left his U.S. citizenship, came to join Nkrumah to reconstruct this country after independence, took on Ghanaian citizenship with his wife. Du Bois Center is a mecca for African scholars, blacks in the diaspora. And yet, intercepted agreement, 50 years is been given away. 50 years. The people have 2 years to take over to think about how to raise the initial $50 million. And then they have control. They appoint 6 members to the board.
What you have seen, they are not coming in with money.
It's another work and pay arrangement.
A regime
as has been consistent. Yeah. So everything in sight is being sold. Then, have you followed what has happened to the judges? Judges woke up one morning recently and 13 bungalows opposite the American embassy gone.
Gone as in what?
When the private developers who told them that, look, they are the new owners, started demolishing, judges ran to their fellow judges for an injunction that, hey, we will have nowhere to stay, save us. So they secured, I have the court document here. These are the judges. Judicial Service of Ghana are the plaintiffs against Lands Commission, Frames Oil Company Limited, the Attorney General, unprecedented. Judges running to judges to save them, to save their bungalows.
And this was, what was the title of that?
Oh, it's a recent 27 February 2024. It's going now, ongoing. Will you believe that these judges secured an injunction on the 28th of November 2023, according to the court documents? The private developers defied the judges. They said go to hell and proceeded to demolish 3 more judges' bungalows at number 7 5th Circular Road, Cantonments, number 18 5th Circular Road, Cantonments, number 36 5th Circular Road, Cantonments. 13 have been demolished now. And the judges have sued the Attorney General, the Lands Commission. They say that they want their bungalows, their land back. Can you believe that? What is going on in this country? Everything is under attack. Everything is being sold.
They should sell the whole country.
I mean, what is happening?
They should sell the whole country.
What is happening? Parks and Gardens at Wa has been sold. Now there's a tussle between the local government minister, after my expose, and the private developer who is building a filling station, a gas well, and they are issuing threats. They send me threats, videos. They said they will deal with me and all of that.
Who sent you that?
The private developers.
The private developers.
And I can tell you authoritatively that the work I have done, all of these so-called private developers are fronting for top politicians. Top. Because look, what will make a so-called private developer defy judges?
Court judgment, yeah.
I mean, and a court judgment. It should tell you that these people they are fronting for very high place.
Let me understand
people in authority.
So in the case of the judges' bungalows that were demolished, 13,
yes.
The injunction was secured in November 2023.
In November, 28 November 2023.
The demolition was done
and they defied it. And they defied it.
Was done after.
Yes, when they saw, to the credit of the judges, when they saw that some activity had begun, private developers, marauding invaders have just, descended upon their bungalows. They immediately went in to secure this injunction. And it was defied. And 3 more bungalows, as we speak, 13 bungalows. The full list is here. 13 bungalows. And I can run through the list of the judges who were occupying these bungalows. Briefly. Justice F.G. Kobie, Justice Anthony Abada, Justice K.A. Ofuriata, Justice Robin Batu, Justice Yao Apau, Justice Stephen Kanyoke, Justice Julius Ansan, Justice Akamba, Justice P.K. Jaisayo, Dr. Naomi Apia, C.J. Honyanuga, Justice Vida Akoto Banfo, Justice Lorinda Owusu.
The very own Honyanuga we know.
Yes, look at prominent.
Akoto Banfo we know.
Akoto Banfo, Akamba. I mean, prominent judges, Jaisayo, Justice Apau, the sole commissioner, you remember? All their bungalows are gone. And the judges have attached in the affidavit here, they've attached the pictures, how it's been demolished, and how the people are building fast.
Can you show this to the...
Building fast.
I mean... But
I'll share them with you. I'll share them. I have soft copies. I'll let you have them. I mean, incredible.
And the ordinary people, we don't know this.
No. Everything is being sold.
They should sell Ghana.
Everything in sight.
Sell the whole country.
Are you aware as we speak?
Let them evacuate all of us to Netherlands.
Hold on a bit. Yes, please. Mr. Ablakwa.
Yes. Are you aware that in addition to what the judges have gone through, the prison service has also run to court in a battle of their lives to protect the Boster Institute land at Roman Ridge? That one too is gone. Somebody shows up. Baumia's senior advisor says that he owns that land. It was given to him by President Kufuor many years ago. He now wants to take ownership.
Where the Correctional Institute.
Yes, the Boster Institute. His name is Professor Piedu. And the work I have done on this matter, I had to, last week, 2 weeks ago, invite the Interior Minister to assure Parliament that he will give the Ghana Prison Service protection and support them, because they were left alone. The walls had been demolished. Boster Institute, Roman Ridge, and every prime land is under attack. So you see, this matter, people have tried to make it, perhaps the Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa has some personal issue
so your
with somebody.
These matters are questionable. That's what.
Yeah. I mean, look.
So what's your interest in all this?
My interest is that state assets should be protected. That politicians should stay away from purchasing state assets. And I have been consistent for the better part of 2 decades. Very consistent. Look, even when I lost the Jacob H.B. Lamte case, that's 6-3 decision. I have the judgment here. And so for Akufu, we have to celebrate her. She said that, look, they are missing an opportunity. So for Akufu predicted it.
Former Chief Justice.
Yes, Chief Justice. She said that, look, they are missing an opportunity to look at the bigger picture. I can read what Sophia Akufu said. In her dissenting, she was with the 3 who dissented. Very, very quickly.
Very, very knowledgeable, very
I mean, Sophia Akufu she's exceptional.
She's the chair of the University of Ghana Governing Council.
Very exceptional.
Very.
She said, look, firstly, I have become extremely concerned of late. That in the handling of enforcement of our constitution, specificities, manner in which it has been pleaded, the big picture being constitutional interpretation and enforcement, and its necessary legal impact, not only on the individual parties to the suit, but more importantly, also on the generality of the Ghanaian citizenry for the present and the future. It seems to me sometimes tends to become of secondary importance. In my humble view, it is incumbent on this court, where a matter comes before it, by way of a writ invoking its original jurisdiction, to draw through the plain quest to identify the core constitutional questions in issue, rather than just what the parties claim to be the matters. Unquote. That was a golden opportunity. And I'm sure that the judges who have lost their bungalow, it would not have happened.
Yeah.
And the marauding, looting that is happening all over the place. Now let me come back to SNIT very quickly.
No, but just a second. I just want to help. I'm saying, Sami, you see, recently when President Mahama met with the press, I mean, he openly said that he will not allow his appointees to be buying these things. I think that he should be a little bit more of also a Kagami, who will put it out there that those of you who are buying these things, go back for your money. Because if I get the opportunity to ascend to the political throne, I would make sure that those deals are reversed. In the interest of the nation, we must begin some of these things.
He has put out a statement on that.
We must do some of these things.
He said he has...
Let them buy, but when you get the opportunity...
He says there will be investigations and repossessions. That's what
reverse them.
Former President Mahama said.
Reverse them.
No. I totally agree with you, because it's like...
We can't sell Ghana.
There is no sacred grove any longer. Look, everything is on sale. The whole country is on sale.
No, but you see,
let the buyers come and evacuate all of us. And
so because
it's incredible.
Instances
that
you raise,
because they are selling everything.
It's about the state in the end. Lands that belong to the state, properties that belong to the state. To the extent that in some instances, a court...
Yes, there's even a court injunction. And it's defied.
And
these are judges, high court judges.
So what is the status of... I'm interested in this judges' matter. Where are they now? Where are they being housed? Do you know?
You remember that when the National Cathedral was going to be constructed, they demolished...
A number of the judges.
A number of bungalows, a separate one, those around near the Parliament enclave, you know. So we had to spend money on rental for them. And then they began a construction. The former Chief Justice began constructing new bungalows. So a number of them are being moved to those new bungalows. But look, I mean, why should judges be putting up in rental accommodation? Why should they be struggling? Why should, look, of all the stress that judges go through, why should we add, now we are adding land guardism to their mandate? They have to be thinking about how their bungalows, their land will be protected. And they have to go to court. I don't recall when in our history we have seen anything like this, or where in the world you see anything like that. Judges So the Lands Commission, the Attorney General, the President of the Republic, all, want us to believe that they didn't know what was going on. Meanwhile, the people, the so-called private developers, Frames Oil and Co., all claim to have valid title. And that is why they have demolished. Who gave them that title? Do you recall that this whole marauding conduct, demolishing and taking over every prime land in sight, do you recall that it has even created diplomatic tensions for us? Properties belonging to the Nigerian High Commission, you remember, were demolished.
They're rich.
They tried to take over in 2020. 2022, 2 years ago, I had to put out another expose how the Bulgarian embassy was demolished. As we speak, Alfred, as we speak, the Bulgarians are waiting for their compensation. The question is, who is going to pay? Who is going to pay? Because the government wants us to believe that those who perpetrated this demolition cannot be found. They cannot be located. I see. Joe Hagan, a gentleman called Joe Hagan, who collaborated with the president's appointee at NDPC, who masterminded this demolition. So as we speak, the Bulgarians, not too long ago, the Bulgarians came into town. Their ambassador has concurrent responsibility over Ghana. He's based in Abuja. Came in, met the Foreign Affairs Committee to remind us that they are waiting for their compensation. The Nigerians, you know how much we spent to replace the demolished property? So, look, you ask yourself, is there any elder in the room? Is there anybody who still loves this country? That is why I am so passionate about this private members bill, the Public Access Protection Bill, as we are calling it. And this has nothing to do with partisanship. It will affect all of us, all politicians. We cannot accept what is going on. That is why I am also on all fours with those who are demanding that people who are caught engaging in this must be punished. So the SNIT board, the MPRA board,
the SNIT board and MPRA board
must be dissolved without further delay. The CEO, Mr. Osafu Mafu, the board chair, because you see the levels of dishonesty, and that brings me to this damning transaction advisors report, dated 24th May 2024.
Perfect. Hold on to that. This is SEM Capital, right?
Yes, the SEM Capital transaction advisors report.
And hold on to that, because 5 days ago, the SNIT board, in fact, the management of SNIT, addressed the press indicating that there is enough justification for this transaction that has been terminated, because their own assessment of the financial status of these hotels that were up for sale is that they are financially incompetent. They're not doing well. And so they needed that injection for these assets to stay afloat financially, so that we, the workers, can also get the needed returns from those investments into these hotels. This is Kofi Osafu Mafu, who is the Director General of SNIT, on Monday. Take a look.
If we look at Elmina, the picture is not that different. Indeed, it's 9 out of the last 14 years, has not paid us a dividend. The money we put into that really hasn't earned us any returns. The returns are negative over the period preceding the decision to divest of our 60% share. If we do Busia Beach, it's the same. No dividends, losses in most of the years, and returns negative, indeed minus 31.7 for the period 2010 to 2017. It puts everything into real perspective and why we would want to improve it with private investment. Ridge Royal, again, the picture is similar. And for the short period returns that we've owned it, returns are negative. That's since 2016. And a significant amount was spent on this hotel. In fact, the hotel owes us 44 million in the investment that we put into the hotel. We've also had an engagement with the NPRA. Once more, we will have another engagement, and if it's deemed necessary, we will continue to engage. I think that is the message, and it's not changed. So I think that's a point that I would like to make. hotels have become uncompetitive, hence the need for capital. And that is also a very important part of what we need to make our hotels businesses competitive. It's about capital. And we cannot ignore that position with respect to the performance of the hotels.
So that's the Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT. And he says, in fact, they listed all the four, Mr. Ablakwa, and says that a number of them were posting negative returns between a period of 2010 and 2017. That's for Buzia. For Ridge Royale, it talks about after the takeover in 2016, the hotel owes SNIT, in fact, we the contributors, 44 million cedis because they're not been able to bring enough returns. They're continuously posting negative returns. It's become uncompetitive. There's the need for capital. So then why do you question the basis for this?
Alfred, I've been asking myself, when will public officials in this country have some shame? Elsewhere, this press conference will be that you gave us these assets to manage. We have failed. They are not making profits. So forgive us. We are resigning. That's what this press conference should have been about.
Really?
I mean, they have no shame that you have failed. You can't manage, I mean, hotels. So many people just out of school, first-time business people. They don't claim to have all the top credentials that these people addressing these press conferences say they have, and are doing so well with their hotels. And yet, all of these people who we have given these assets, they come and hold press conferences and tell us that we have failed. We can't manage these assets, so we need to bring in a private investor. How disgraceful. And they are keeping their positions. How disgraceful. Why did you accept the job? Why are you keeping the job? If you can't succeed at managing, you can't turn fortunes around. Then the other question that we must ask logically, logical deduction, is that why is it that all of these assets, when they are under our control as public assets, we say we can't manage. We say they cannot do well.
And this is not peculiar to even the hotels.
Yes, it's not. Yes, it's not peculiar to the hotels. Yes, it's become a national canker.
That when the state
is managing, is put under your care, you run it down. You cannot make profits. And yet, when you put it up for sale, you want it. As we know now, a cabinet minister wants it, and see the fierce battle, the resistance that he has mounted, the fight since this thing started. 2 months now, he has insisted that he wants it. Something that you say is not profitable, is not worthwhile, it's not, it's not good. You are doing us a favor. Why are you so keen on having it? But the point I'm making is that how is it that suddenly the very people who can manage these things when it's public suddenly can manage it, transform its fortunes? It does so well when it becomes private, when it's theirs. Does that not tell you that there's a fundamental issue?
So there's specific concern about the
look
at the number of.
Let's stay with these hotels. And I know that these matters, there's also the ideological considerations. I have never been a fan of divestiture. I've never supported it, even though my party has engaged in divestiture over the years. But I've never been, it's a personal ideological position. Those who say that government has no business doing business, I disagree with them. Ideologically, because the very people who in government say that government has no business doing business, it won't do well. What we must be asking ourselves is that why is it that when they turn around and buy it, it does well? They are able to transform it. They are excited about keeping it, adding it to their investment portfolios. So it's not about it being public or private. It's just mismanagement. They deliberately run these things down so that they will turn around and own it. That is why, if you look at these hotels, the Labadi Beach model, I keep emphasizing, Labadi Beach provides answers to us. Labadi Beach Hotel, when some 15 years ago, there were challenges with management. They decided that they would change management. They brought in an entity called Legacy. Legacy transformed Labadi Beach Hotel. In the process, they did knowledge transfer, shepherded the local staff who learned the best practice, because Legacy was from South Africa.
Yes. So
and they handed over to them.
Just for the benefit.
And
this Legacy
yes,
is
a hospitality management
hospitality industry.
Private.
In fact, it's a global private. And so,
yes.
so then, because you made reference to it,
so
there's always that question about why principle against.
So it wasn't sold. It wasn't sold to them. We just signed a management contract with them. It wasn't sold. There are degrees of it wasn't. So we signed a management contract with them. They came in. After 10 years, they left. Locals took over, and the locals have been doing well, making profits. If you look at
the SNIT Director General said they are not making profit.
Labadi Beach Hotel is making profit, so profitable.
You heard him. I'm not the one saying.
No, but he's wrong. I have all these are audited reports from Deloitte. Labadi Beach Hotel is so profitable.
Show it to the cameras.
Very, very profitable. Indeed, if you look at the current numbers of Labadi Beach Hotel, their gross profit is 158.4 million. Their net operating profit is 58.2 million. 2023, as at 31st December 2023, is here.
I suspect it's a slip from the director.
It probably slipped.
Yeah.
Because now they themselves, initially, they were on that trajectory that they are all making losses. Then when we published the financial statements, their audited accounts, then they made a U-turn that, okay, only Labadi Beach Hotel is profitable. So Labadi Beach Hotel has paid dividends consistently to government. Last year, they paid 25 million. The year before, 10 million. So Labadi Beach Hotel, very, very profitable. So the Labadi Beach Hotel model should tell you that when you have the right management, who are implementing the right management practices, fortunes can be transformed. So why is it that the only option that comes to the mind of some of these public officials is, oh, let's sell, let's sell, let's sell. And then they turn around to buy. Now, let me come to this transaction advisors report.
So
look, I have never seen anything so damning. And I'm going to spend some time on this transaction because you see, all the things we were saying earlier, they made it look as though, oh, because you have a bias, because you are not cloaked with professional mandate to carry out an assessment, so we cannot really trust you and take your word to the bank. So let's listen to what the transaction advisors report is. And remember that we paid good money for this transaction advisor. $491,000. More than 7 million Ghana cedis. Very, very good money.
And did you get this information that it was a consortium of about 4 or 5 companies and not just Sem Capital? Did you ever get that?
What I have here is the transaction advisor.
Okay.
Dr. Sam Mensah. Writing to the Board of Trustees of SNIT. And it is a transaction advisor's comment on Rock City's proposal to SNIT for the purchase of 60% shares in the 4 hotels, Lot 1 and Lot 2. It is a 6-page report. My brother, every page is explosive. Very damning report. So the transaction advisor, this intercepted report, reveals that apparently Rock City has been allowed to put forward an installment plan, something which was not made available to others. And according to the payment terms, they will pay $30.8 million out of the $61.2 million. And then they will spread the remaining half the remaining 30 over a 24-month period. The transaction advisor also discovers that there is no interest rate on that 2-year installment plan. Then the transaction advisor writes, the proposer offers an installment plan with no confirmation of availability of funds. Payment is based on the cash flows of Rock City Hotel, with no credit enhancement from any bank. There is no indication of ability to pay. The arrangements for the transfer of the shares do not satisfy the objectives of SNIT. Transfer of the management and ownership will take 2 years. The 2-year installment plan was not made available to all bidders. Can you believe that? When we talk about insider dealing, when we talked about how the process was rigged to favor a predetermined outcome, this is the transaction advisor speaking, not me. Dr. Sam Mensah, who signed this report. He continues, the latest proposal does not meet the objectives of SNIT, which were clearly stated in the terms of reference for this transaction. The objective is to select a strategic partner with the necessary gravitas, expertise, and financial muscle to turn around the fortunes of the hotels. SNIT's preference is to limit its equity holdings in these investments to between 26% and 49%. The strategic partner is to take up the rest of the equity by injecting the equivalent capital into the hotels. The Rock City proposal, as it stands now, will not satisfy SNIT's objective. The proposal does not indicate the source of funding for the balance of the acquisition price. Rock City Hotel's latest proposal does not include a bank guarantee. I'm reading from page 3 of the Transaction Advisor's report. However, the current proposal does not reflect a bank guarantee and a firm indication of the ability of Rock City Hotel to settle the transaction in full. Below is an analysis of the semi-annual payment that will be required of Rock City at different rates of interest. And they provide the analysis. It's $7.6 million. That is 106 million Ghana cedis. The transaction advisor continues. Assuming that SNIT accepts a 2-year plan with semi-annual payments and an interest rate of 2.5%, the periodic payment that will be required of Rock City will be $7.8 million. That's 109.7 million Ghana cedis. Rock City's hotel's financials cannot support the transaction. The table below shows that Rock City's hotel projected annual revenue for 2024 cannot meet the half-year installment payment of 109.7 million. In addition, the company does not have cash reserves to support the installment payments. Can you believe that?
Looting.
Damn. This was just a work and pay arrangement.
Create, loot, and share.
Yeah.
So
create, loot,
and share.
Dr. Sam Mensah right. He said, in short, the current proposal does not meet the requirement to demonstrate the financial capacity to close the transaction. Can you believe this? And you see, this is dated 24th May, addressed to the Board of Trustees of SNIT. The Honorable Elizabeth Ohini wrote a month after in that her epistle coming out of the hotels, where she even sought to suggest that if angels looked into this transaction, she would come out squeaky clean.
Can you imagine?
When she had been given a copy of this, can you believe that? She received this a month before she wrote that article. That is why we insist that all of them must go.
Exactly.
I agree with lawyer Martin Pebu that they must all leave. That board must be dissolved. They've done this country a great disservice. This is the transaction advisor.
This was on the 24th of May.
24th of May. And she wrote her article on the 26th of June.
Well, Brian Champon says you don't have full knowledge of the processes.
No problem.
That this whole transaction went through. So
no problem. You see, he's been calling me names. He says I'm driven by hate. I have no knowledge on business transactions. I'm not a businessman. No problem. That's fine. I accept all of that. That's why I have come here this morning with the transaction advisors report. This is Dr. Sam Mensah. Or he too, he doesn't. The transaction advisors, their knowledge is not up to Brad Champon's knowledge. They don't know business. So the money we have paid them. And you see, after all of this, we will start a causing financial loss discussion. Because if SNIT had done the right thing, engaged stakeholders, particularly organized labor, they will have known that they have no business going into this transaction. Organized labor will have told them clearly, you cannot sell. If they had come to Parliament, we will have told them. So all these payments they have made will have been saved. You said that you are struggling. You need cash injection. And see how much, over 7 million. And we have not talked about other expenditure items around this transaction. So look, back to all these claims by the Honorable Brian Champon. It's all red herring, fallacy of ad hominem, and total baseless attacks. Look, this is a transaction advisors report. And when you read this transaction advisors report, and you compare it with the...
And the SNIT board has a copy of this?
Yes, they have a copy. All of them, all board members.
I see.
Were given copies of this. Now, if you compare what the transaction advisor has discovered to what SNIT advertised, and SNIT's own pre-qualification criteria, what it means is that Rock City Hotel, their proposal should not even have been entertained in the first place. They should have been disqualified.
Why this?
Because
what is in
if
that?
you look at the pre-qualification criteria, it's stated clearly here that the bidders must show sources and proof of funding. The transaction advisors are saying that Rock City doesn't have proof of funding. They don't have a bank guarantee. There was no bank enhancement to their proposal. There's another pre-qualification criteria that says that they should have a valid GRA tax clearance certificate. In my earlier expose, when I published their tax filings, a copy of which I have here, at the time they were putting in the bid, they hadn't filed their taxes, so they couldn't have had a valid tax, and it's one of the matters Shraj is investigating. They couldn't have had a valid tax clearance certificate because they filed their 2021 taxes in 2023. The records are here. They cannot run away from them.
But
so, and then 2022, they filed in 2024. So they couldn't have had a tax clearance certificate. They have no source or proof of funding. They should not even have qualified if this was not an insider dealing. So look, this matter, even though we have some victory now, we are going to continue with the Shraj investigations. We'll continue to cooperate with them. Yesterday, I also filed this RTI request to MPRA. If MPRA thinks that they can go into this collusion less than 2 weeks, this damning transaction advisors report, you say you are done with your review and you have given the green light.
I see.
I have filed this RTI request demanding one, I'll read through quickly, one, confirmation that the MPRA has indeed informed SNIT to proceed with the sale of the 4 hotels to Rock City Hotel Limited, as disclosed by the Employment Minister. 2, a copy of MPRA's review of the transaction in issue, which was conducted under 2 weeks, and how you came to this conclusion. That is, if the assertion by the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations is accurate. 3, how the MPRA addressed the underlisted grave matters of concern as contained in the May 24, 2024 Transaction Advisors Report, signed by Dr. Sam Mensah of SEM Capital and delivered to the SNIT board. And I've gone through the Transaction Advisors Report, so I don't need to repeat that. Then 4, how the MPRA determined that this transaction does not offend conflict of interest provisions contained in the 1992 Constitution.
I see.
And 5, how the MPRA satisfied itself that Rock City presented a valid tax clearance certificate under Ghana's Income Tax Act 2015, Act 896, and which, like a valid bank guarantee, was another pre-qualification criterion of SNIT, considering that Rock City had failed to file its annual taxes in 2021 and 2022. I await your prompt compliance under the Right to Information Act 2019, Act 989.
So you're also asking the same questions that indeed earlier I put out about the MPRA and their
clearly the MPRA is complicit. Clearly,
the minister put out.
But a little question.
Unless the MPRA boldly tells us that what the minister told Parliament is not true. It's not accurate. That they didn't give SNIT the green light to proceed.
I'll come to you, for example. But you make mention of Labadi Beach Hotel as a reason why you believe that something else could have been employed in terms of turning around the fortunes of these other hotels,
yes,
than selling them off, because the other three, you say, at least per the books, they are not doing well. The Labadi one had a management contract with Legacy International for a 10-year period. They employed strategists, turned around the financial fortunes of that hotel,
yes,
and then trained locals who took over and is now making profit. Would you have supported the same approach for these other hotels instead of selling them off?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I've always said, that why not look at management? Bring in a different management structure. Look, did you see those memos I put out from La Palm? I mean, doesn't it strike you as odd that that same street, just a 2-minute walk apart, Labadi Beach Hotel, so profitable, and La Palm is not doing well? Meanwhile, La Palm has more rooms, has bigger facilities. That really is our conference headquarters in this country. If really La Palm should be run well, they have the biggest banquet facilities and conference facilities in our country. Did you see those memos where somebody acts, a deputy MD at La Palm, acts for 6 months and is demanding $18,000, $3,000, and he's actually paid that $18,000? Why wouldn't the place? And if you look at even how the selection was done, the political patronage that goes into this, oh, this is our person, let her go and manage La Palm.
Yes.
This one is our person, let her go and manage. It's seen as spoils of war. We've won an election.
Yeah.
So those who are left, we couldn't get ministerial, ambassador, DC positions for them. Let's. If you run these hotels professionally, you do the right interview process, you give people clear KPIs, like we did for Labadi. And you see, the Labadi story is there for us. It tells you that it works. If you have the right management, these hotels will be profitable. In any case, in this discussion, are we even looking at goodwill and the prime locations of all of these hotels? The land, beachfront, the value of these assets. Yes, now in terms of their books, some are struggling, but their assets are going up. La Palm, at the center of the capital, beachfront. If you want to buy a plot today, beachfront today, you know how much it will be sold to you?
Obviously, yeah.
I mean, I'm told the plot is going for about $1.2 million. Just one plot. Is anybody considering that?
How can a lecturer buy that?
It shall be well.
Oh boy. Anyway, so then, thank you, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa.
I just wanted to find out briefly that,
I know you have to
just to make also the point that I think that if the man himself at the center has pulled out, then maybe we should move on. And then also, if SNIT truly has written to terminate the deal, in fact, labor unions are saying that that statement they issued, they don't. They don't recognize it. They don't recognize it. If they really want to terminate, they should write properly and sign.
I agree with them.
My question.
I agree because there is no signature.
Yeah. My question is, so is it because Brian Champon decided to pull out? That's why they are terminated.
Good question.
Yes. So was it? So it creates the impression that everything then was prepared for one person.
For one person.
So if the person says I don't like, then we are pulling.
Yeah. Because we were complaining from day one. More than 2 months now.
These people are not. You see, they are not.
Look at the transaction advisors.
After Rock City pulled out, the next conversation was that there were other bids.
If there were other bids,
yes.
Then
because remember, Freddie Blair has said that his son even put up a higher.
Well, there was a response by the Director General to that.
The Director General says that they didn't open the financials. They didn't open the financials, but it doesn't take away Freddie Blair's claims that they made. And you see, that also exposes SNIT, because SNIT had all along claimed that the Brad Champon offer was the highest,
yes,
of $61 million, which we all know today that it was way below SNIT's own valuation of these assets.
Exactly, that's where they create loot and share.
I have seen the valuation report, $121 million.
Yes, clearly. Create loot and share.
That's what it is.
Well, I think that, well, for me, what is heartwarming is that the man himself has pulled out. I mean, when it started, some of us felt that, look,
he's been forced out, not pulled out. It's after the Labour had announced the strike.
When
he saw what was coming.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the most important
Kenya has come.
Yeah.
The most important thing is that, I mean, he is not going to be buying it again. And I agree that if Labadi is doing something good, let the other hotels also emulate. And let us, I mean, the whole idea of selling state property to the private sector, so it's a very defeatist idea. When you go to South Africa, it is the state schools that do very well. Your child is taken to a private school, and they said the private schools do not do well. They only cater for those who have not done well in the state school and have been, if you like, expelled. Then the private schools. So what is run by the state runs well. But in our part of the world, Abaye Juma, you see, we always want to drag it. We always want to run it down. It doesn't help. You see, it's a colonial mindset. It's a colonial legacy. You know, in the struggle for independence, one of the tools that Nkrumah resorted to was to frustrate the white man. Okay, one of the means of frustrating the white man was to make sure that the people working in the public service, public sector workers, would always be doing things that were against the goals of the public service. So report to work at 8 o'clock, they will go there at 10 o'clock. If this is a state property, they want to drag, just to frustrate the colonial matter. So that was the idea. So don't carry it, just drag it. And it was a way of frustrating the colonial master to go away quickly. The colonial master is gone. And it appears that bit of their legacy, that bit of the kinds of things we did to frustrate them, is still with us. We haven't had a national conscientization and reawakening on the need to ensure that the state and the public sector works well. And that's how come everything that belongs to the state, we feel that must be dragged, must be run down, must be destroyed. But thankfully, if Labadi Beach Hotel has been able to show the way, then all others must take a cue to ensure that the state works. We cannot continue to pander to the inefficiencies of the state and throw our hands in despair that everything that the state is doing shouldn't run well. It's not good.
And I'll bring you in at this point. In fact, Professor Jampo, what you just said fits into, I don't know if you've seen this, and I'll give you a copy of the state ownership report, which details the financial health of state-owned enterprises in this country. It goes without saying, you don't even need to see it. You don't have an idea of what is in there. 2018, 2019, 2020, cumulative losses of almost 10 billion. And you know, there are managers and directors of these SOEs that are posting losses every year, whom we are still paying every month.
Taking allowances. And still running these institutions at a loss on a monthly and annual basis. No turnaround plan. In fact, the full details of the report, and what's even quite worrying is that the IMF adds the debt of SOEs to the public debt that we have to pay. If you look at the IMF's report, and look, there's not much time on this matter, so it's an issue that we can go to as we go.
You see, leadership has failed.
I mean, from the top, leadership has failed. If you are running an SOE and it's running at a loss, what's the basis for your continuous per diems and traveling allowances and entertainment and salaries, and they are traveling and they are doing all manner of things, yet they are running at a loss? Who does that? So we cannot, the same people, when we travel to other people's country, we know what to do, how to behave, how to handle official responsibilities reposed in us to ensure that whatever task has been given to us, we excel in doing them. But when we come to Ghana, you think that you have the right to receive your salary when you are running an SOE at a loss, and then you give end of year bonuses. You've run at a loss, but you share bonuses. It is only in Ghana. And like I said, leadership has failed. We are looking for a leader who would also look into all these things. Go drill down and say that if all these SOEs are also running at a loss, then we are not also going to be paying them bonuses. Right. You fire people and bring on board business-minded people to head some of these SOEs.
So essentially the problem is about appointing persons who manages SOE.
Appointment has oftentimes not been meritocratic. I'll give you. Appointment has oftentimes not been meritocratic. You see, always we are looking for who went to sacrifice for the party, who was beaten in the lead up to the campaign. How can being beaten in an electioneering campaign be a requirement for appointment to go ahead and SOE?
Thank you.
Does it make sense?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Jampo.
I want to add my voice to the panelists who are congratulating the Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa for the work that's been done so far, including the ability to galvanize the workers' front, except to caution him not to go the Napo way and compare himself to the Nibonny. He almost compared himself to the Nibonny riots of 1948. Not since 1948 the workers come together.
I'm celebrating the workers.
Congratulations.
I'm congratulating the workers.
You didn't catch it.
I'm saying that the last time we saw
this kind of
job.
It's a fantastic thing.
Workers' solidarity,
including the fight to protect state assets. It's really horrific, the things that are going on now. But then, first of all, I want to appeal to the workers to pause on their strike.
No.
It is my
Hold on.
I have a right to UTAG is meeting today. We are going to also take our decision.
Thank you.
I have a right to
that we should pause the strike.
I have a right to speak my mind. I didn't interrupt you. I have a right to speak my mind.
Leadership will meet and then take their time. You're even tired of working and earning little. You're tired of working and earning little.
If you listen to me, you will realize that I'm on the right path.
Thank you.
If you listen to me, you will realize that I'm on the right path.
Lie about the answer, please. Yes.
What I'm saying is that this is a threshold on which workers can actually force the issues to the forefront and look at the way forward. There's momentum. There is genuine momentum. If you have come to this point where the threat of a strike has compelled the government to review its position, for regulatory agencies and the primary investor agency to review its position, for the primary investor, the strategic investor to review its position, then there must be a way forward. It doesn't end there. Getting rid of the boards and all that, that's all very well and good. But I want to look at the beyond. And I'm happy that Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa moved into ideology about state assets and all that, the privatization of state assets and not being in favor, and yet concluded that it is useful to have some form of private involvement.
But not sale to them.
Degrees, there are always degrees of private involvement. In some instances, you can sell. In some instances, you can have concession arrangements. The important thing is that privatization injects a certain level of expertise and skills and investment that can transform management and therefore improve the value of assets. So you don't dismiss private sector entirely. But then, going back to this, as a platform for the way forward. This is the time to interrogate the whys and then look at the hows going forward. The whys is that, first of all, why have SNIT terminated now? Is it only because of the strike? Because if it's only because of the strike and what they are trying to do is good, then they have reneged on a promise to the Ghanaian people, according to law, to take care of our public sector investments so that in future, Professor Jampo can be catered for in his pension. So why have they terminated? Were they doing something wrong? It needs to be interrogated. Then, where were the investment guidelines? Because NPRA is a regulator. And it was very interesting to hear you say that somebody high up in NPRA called you in the night and said that they didn't have anything to do with the statement that came
some of them, it was
that statement is a complete disaster. Because by law, NPRA has no right to approve. They don't have a right to approve. They have a right to review. First of all, they need to recommend through a framework for investment. The investment decisions are that of SNIT, but within a framework, guidelines provided by NPRA. And that means that as the oversight and supervisory authority, NPRA can look at it and make recommendations. This is good, this is bad, do this, do that. The NPRA cannot approve and say, on the basis of my approval, go ahead, because it is not the business of the NPRA to invest pension funds. So if that letter indeed is not coming from NPRA, and this is what we're talking about this morning, responsibility of appointment. The people who call you in the night on principle should get up and say that this is not our doing. The people in charge of NPRA, if they deserve their jobs, because people and Jampo are calling for their heads this morning, including Okudzeto, should up and say that as for us, we don't believe in this or that. As for us, we had the framework of supervision in place. You must be bold.
Kenya.
You must do something. So for me, what I'm saying is that once you get people doing what they are supposed to do by tenure, by law, and be accountable for their actions, then some of these things, we can proceed them to the next level, way forward. Because we still need the investment. We still need to get these things going. But if we leave them in the current state, they will not be there when we need the pensions. An asset is as good as its sustenance, maintenance, and continued viability. If you leave, I'm not done. Don't sit back. Not done. Yes, so the question going forward is how do we accumulate domestic capital, especially from the 30% SOE sector of our economy, which is dragging us down without accountabilities, with impunities and all that. That is why page 19 of the Great Transformational Plan says that we'll do intermediation. We are first of all going to list all profitable SOEs on the stock exchange and introduce worker-owned schemes. Worker-owned schemes. So the people who are in the hotels who believe they can do it must own part of it as a motivation for ensuring that those things perform. And they are in a position to raise public funds. So then you ask yourself, will the tier 2 and the private pension trust funds believe in these hotels enough to invest in them? Because those are worker funds.
Right.
You understand? Right. So we are looking at that. We are looking at getting rid of all unperforming SOEs and investing the money accrued from that in a Ghana sovereign fund, which sovereign wealth fund can issue debt equity. Debt equity. It means government-supported equity to SOEs to run, and where, if possible, they are viable to deliver profits. So we have investment funds. And then we are saying that apart from, we need to look at SNIT's legacy investments. How well has SNIT's portfolio been run so far? Hotels, office buildings, real estate. Indeed, where are we with that SNIT portfolio? Are the hotels doing well? No, because now we are struggling to bring it straight. What about the real estate, the commercial real estate sector? The SNIT office buildings, look at Trust Towers, look at near airport, the Emporium. Are they in good condition? Are they returning the money? So this is an opportunity to bring SNIT to the forefront and get them to account for their activities within the context of their investment portfolio.
They should go beyond this Rock City
This is a platform. That's why I'm saying that when I started, I said that we should suspend the strike and use this as a threshold, as a jump-off pad to really engage SNIT and get them to account for where they are sitting, what they are doing, to engage NPRA and get them to account to the people of Ghana and the workers in particular.
Thank you.
Because the formal sector, who we call the workers, are the ones who are really in danger here, because informal sector, which is the largest part, are not compelled to pay SNIT contributions. This pension structure we have now is heavily tilted towards public sector workers. So they are outraged, and they have a right to be outraged. But this is an opportunity to step forward and change things the way they should be done. Now, to conclude, the Great Transformational Plan has 10 anchor industries that can be initiated in Ghana, dealt within in Ghana, and offer opportunities for strategic investments. So if you are changing the investment portfolio of SNIT after a review, you can put it in pharmaceuticals, you can put it in bauxite refining, you can put it in salt, you can put it in so many things that are more viable than perhaps the current portfolio. But the important thing is that, as Mr. Okudzeto said, let us not rule out the private sector entirely, because private sector comes with advantages, but those benefits must be moderated by solid regulation. And our regulators are failing us because they are cowards. Our regulators are the ones who are failing us because they are not living up to the tasks that they've been given. And that is where we must look. Because otherwise, if we keep changing the people without changing the environments in which they work, without giving them the courage to do the work that they do, we will not advance.
Thank you. And as we round up, as I know some of the Okudzeto Ablakwa would have to leave us. So after this point, you've given us indication that there's a public assets protection bill that is a private member's motion that you're pushing together with other like-minded persons in Parliament. Then what next? Quickly.
Yes, so in the coming days, we will be publishing the draft bill and we'll do stakeholder consultations. We want particularly organized labor to have a look at it and the Ghanaian people to make inputs, and then we will submit it to Parliament, and I believe that we can mobilize support of the Speaker and both sides. Interestingly, a few MPs on the other side have reached out that they want to be part of this.
I see.
So,
NPP MPs?
Yes, yes. And so that is really looking good. I hope that we'll get the needed bipartisan support, because look, this has to end. There are things going on. Look, sometimes I ask myself, are we even sure that some of these assets we think that belong to the state are still in the name of the state? Are we sure? Because until I intercepted the Dubois agreement, I didn't know that Dubois was gone for 50 years. I didn't know, but we were all here as Pan-Africanists thinking that, oh, Dubois is still for us, it's still for the state, and all of that. You know, Jubilee House, Blaster Square, all of that. Are we really
the
sure?
prisons land, especially the prisons land, outside crime land,
you know, so
Adenta,
aviation lands, all gone.
Thank you. Create, loot, and share.
And finally, I want to emphasize that the current generation of leaders should be thinking about the next generation. Population is increasing. When we put up hospitals, doctors should live close to the hospitals. Nurses should live close to the hospitals. That was the vision of our founding fathers. That is how they established. These days, we even build schools and teachers have to commute 1 hour, 2 hours. You know, they are always late. Teachers don't have accommodation in the communities where the schools are. Either there is no land or we just didn't even think about their welfare. You know, and all the land is being sold. We are not even looking at our environmental concerns.
Thank you.
You know, because if we keep destroying the forests, we keep destroying our horticultural zones, I mean, we are virtually committing suicide. That's what we are doing. You know, so apart from the blatant corruption, the thievery, the state capture going on, we are even destroying our very livelihood. We face an existential threat with this unbridled greed, which is at play.
Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is the Member of Parliament for the Northern Constituency, Chief Interceptor, and
today you are giving me a lot of titles.
Indeed, uncle and good friend. In fact, one of my many mentors in this path that I am on, Fifi Banson, says, good morning to my Saltpond brother, Professor Jampo, and Anas Pro Max. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa.
Anas Pro Max.
Yes. I'll be back shortly after this quick break. In fact, don't go away, because there's another issue that's of serious concern. We'll be back after this quick break. Other guests will be joining us as well. Stay with us.
Good.
Dreaming of Asia with your family? Let's make it happen. Join Global Wings Travel and Tours for a 9-day all-inclusive tour of Malaysia and Singapore from September 9th to the 18th, 2024. Experience the best of Malaysia and Singapore. Visit famous tourist sites in both countries. Take car cable rides, try local foods, and relax in luxurious hotels. This incredible package includes return air ticket, Malaysia visa facilitation, 9 nights in a 4-star hotel, daily breakfast and dinner, all taxes, airport transfers, and travel insurance. Join Global Wings this September and create memories that will last a lifetime. Book now by calling or WhatsApping 0553 688 398 or 0550 188 181.
Star 712. Picture this. Coming in Greece. Yeah, and now you were back in Greece. They say, why you fit a millionaire? Yes, the luckiest at Aroma. They say, I'm from Massa Echeman. Yeah. Now check this. Sister Abna, aka Kobe Hima. The luckiest at Aroma. Queen B. Yeah. Boss Lady Bakupe. Let's go. Hold on to your seats, folks. Such anyway, it'll be you smooth. Way and your friend will upgrade. Luckiest at Aroma. And the best part, that with the luckiest, will be our shot to a good life. And I'm talking to you, me, your girlfriend, your ex, your neighbors, your landlords, and even Goro boys. And no one is over dialing with lucky number. Star 712. No.
Okudzeto ticket to win in the community draw or the grand draw on the 30th of November 2024. The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. T&Cs apply.
This is the show that brings finality to all the critical issues. It is the stage where all the facts are checked, issues thoroughly interrogated, opinions shaped, and debates settled. But over here, we do more than just talk. We resolve problems. We hold those in power accountable. We address all the key happenings in society, from politics to health to education, to everything you deem important. And we will center the voice of the ordinary Ghanaian. This is the show that sets the agenda.
Agenda, coming soon on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
Close my eyes, drift away. Heard myself a better place.
Well, we're back again. This is the Day Show, and I'm excited to be coming your way with a very important conversation. This is not the first time that you've taken part in Tour de Ghana.
Yes, please.
This will be how many times?
This is my second time.
Second?
I think I might be one of the rare people in the family with the gift of art.
When was the last time you met someone who was differently abled, and how did you treat them? How did you speak to them? Were you nice to them?
When I pick car, they just don't want me to join the car because, you know, someone thinks my sweat is going to make his arm cut.
2 days ago, I was at the salon, and the lady, her assistant, was asking her, Madam Nawe Moja.
Oh, look forward to my special guest on the show today. It is a Day Show.
The Day Show, Sundays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
She left her faith and joined a new faith. Things are terrible all around her, including her husband.
I decided to go back to the village to see my father, and he strongly disapproved of my newfound religion. He didn't even know what to do to himself. He decided to disown me.
Your child or your children, God created them all. You are just only a caretaker. Whatever way they have chosen to go, bless them.
See, there are times that you have to instill discipline, whether your child likes it or not. You have to force him or her to do it. It's just like you seeing your ward or your child being sick, and the person doesn't want to take certain medications. But you know the medication is good for him or her. Yeah. So there are times you have to Just stand on your feet. Control things.
There should be that relationship from the beginning. It will grow. And your child will never rebel against you and say that I don't want to serve your God. How you start with the child will go to that.
And I think this old man is egocentric. He's selfish.
Confessions show Sundays at 10 p.m. only on TV3.
Tell me what you're cooking. The Alumni Battle is back. Get ready for the culinary showdown like no other. Kitchen Wars Season 3. Experience the heat of the kitchen wars as alumni put their skills to the test and showcase their passion for cooking. Who will go head to head in the ultimate cooking showdown to fight for culinary supremacy, and whose artistry of gourmet cuisine will impress the judges. Don't miss Kitchen Wars Season 3, where flavors clash and only the best reign supreme. Interested schools should send their details to WhatsApp number 0561-913333 to register. Kitchen Wars, your school fit cook.
Kitchen Wars, coming soon on TV3.
All sporting disciplines matter on Warm-Up Plus.
Warm-Up Plus, the most exciting hour on TV. So join the conversation and get updated.
Get sports news, visit exciting places, and be in the know on Warm-Up Plus. Let's go, Diana.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting warmed up.
Catch me, Yao Ufusulabi.
And me, Aniela Alote, every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. only on TV3.
Get ready for the most glamorous and prestigious pageant in the land. The search for the next GMB Queen has begun.
GMB Queen 2023 is
Join us as we embark on a journey of elegance, poise, and talent, featuring stunning ladies from all 16 regions. Witness the sparkle, the shine, and the splendor as they vie for the coveted crown. Don't miss the grand auditions, the talent, and the flair.
A culture that is rich, blessed, colorful, and energetic.
Tune in to TV3 on 14th of July at 8 p.m. sharp and live on our social media pages as we embark on the quest for the next GMB Queen. It's a royal affair and it starts here.
GMB is sponsored by Deluxy Acrylic Paint, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, Enapa Foods, Nescafe Blood Tonic,
Frutelli Calipo,
Reflow Sanitary Pad, Vitamilk, Obuasi Bitters, Global Wings Travel and Tour.
The Western Trade Fair 2024 July-August edition. Are you ready to tap into the vast opportunities in the Western region? Look no further. The Western Trade Fair is your gateway to unlocking the potential of this thriving hub. Join us for a 10-day of networking, innovation, and growth as we bring together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators from across the region. Venue, Takrady Mall. Arrival date Friday 26 July. Starting date Saturday 27 July to Monday August 5, 2024. Side attraction, live band music, fashion show, and Mobi Zoo. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Register now to secure your spot at the Western Trade Fair. Book your space now by calling 0240-551549 or 0243-438251. Unlock the power of the West. Join us at the Western Trade Fair. Hashtag Western.
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com, also on Beach FM and also Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and a number of radio stations across the country. This one here says, Ghanaians are happy now. Please, we entreating media houses, especially yours, to do the same to help us retrieve all the below. Ghanaians should ask the PNDC and NDC appointees who sold over 300 Kwame Nkrumah factories, including his home country, to also account to the people. You say, thank you very much for this one. This one here says, hi brother, how come the management of SNIT rescinded their decision in the sale of the hotels? Don't they need the money again? They now know, you say fire past fire. Mano o mano.
Mano a mano.
Ghanaians staged demonstration against the sale. You refuse. Now that the workforce of Ghana are going on strike, you have succumbed. They say. This one here, it came through from Papa Bisu. Thank you very much. This one also says, Hadi from Pig Farm, that we must all be concerned, not just Ablakwa or SNIT. We are all, sorry, not just Ablakwa or TUC. We are all affected by these decisions that are taken by our leaders. Some of the Okudzeto Ablakwa should be commended, but also the media as well. You say thank you. This one from Nelson Godfrey Ajiman. Thank you for that. Mustafa Luamanya Krobo. Thank you for the message. When you have government that believes in talking about says packing state institutions with loyalists, labor strikes become the order of the day. Thank you very much for your message. That's quite a number of them. I acknowledge the 2,346 of the messages that have come through on the issues that we have discussed so far. Thank you, Fred Forsing and Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. Thank you very much for your message this morning as well. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo says, the truth shall set you free. I still recall arguing with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in occasional instances where I told him that his idea of an African unity was not going to work because he was doing things for propaganda purposes. It goes on and on and on. He's quoting Julius Nyerere, the first president of Tanzania, who published sometime in 1997. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, thank you. And that leads us to our next conversation. I want us to first of all hear from Otumfuo Osei to the second, before Dr. Matthew Poku prepared to put it on record, and he has apologized afterwards. But this is what Otumfuo Osei to the second said in respect of the specific instance of an advice that preceded that statement that he made. But before that, let's take a listen to Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh. Take a look.
Ghana, Ghana, Bakosoma. President Kufuor to call retirement. But if the case we will say a freestyle Ghana from 1957. Ebekane, yenya president bia wabua Ghana China na do dan Kufuor. Messi a freestyle 1957. Bekane, mo form Kwame Nkrumah no, mo form Obia di wa abedi mampanya, wa bo Ghana ho ban, e di Ghana kola nim China na do dan Kufuor.
Me bedi e makasa chen wo dem metunufo nanzo ma men kan chao e ma Dr. Bawumia nunu ho so wo yi wo e ma ne nunu ho so wo yi wo o kwaya no kwaya sumpa ne di na chi na de obekire wo na wo so ye pa ho brase kodi akire na ye ne kama mame ya sitie na de ono obekire wo na ye e ba ye ya sen kropo bi se wani nso ade me se akolai metiti no ofie ma hunu sa de enti na ye kasa de ye ka no media mesa wuti sente sa e ma ne nye ho.
says, don't let it be. Those are the last comments of Otunfo to the second. And Manenyeho. But Professor Jampo says that but eventually the apology has come. In fact, there's a lot that my colleagues on 3news.com are doing. So if you make some time and visit 3news.com, you see. You can also scan a QR code that we'll be putting on your screen as we go on to join the 3 News channel. But, for example, and in fact, let me welcome the Honorable Al-Hassan Suhini, Al-Hajj Al-Hassan Suhini. And he's been here Alfred. All the while listening to some Okudzeto Ablakwa. It's good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Alfred.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Good to also, Adam Senano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Senano, appreciate your time. Thank you for coming. You wanted a quick bite on this SNIT matter in a minute, please. Quick one.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I wish when they were even announcing it, they had said all citizens join us. You know, I don't think this has to do with just organized labor. I think it's a national issue. And as you have said earlier, we need to expand it and make sure that the opportunity to address all the challenges there. Let's take this moment in time, dissect all that has been happening in SNIT, the management challenges, and make sure that we can have a turnaround that benefits all of us as a country. Those would be my comments.
I thank you very much. And also to put it on record that the Honorable Ejapa Mesa wanted to make an intervention on this Du Bois Center issue that Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa put out, that there's some lease agreement of 50 years to a particular institution with respect to Du Bois. He had reached out earlier, but we're trying to get through to him, and we're unable to. So just put it on record that he wanted to make that intervention. And that intervention is still within consideration. If we get through to him, would let him make that intervention. So thank you. My producer is still trying to get through to him.
Alfred,
So, yes,
Alfred, can I be permitted a minute?
Yes, in a minute.
If for nothing at all, just to celebrate my colleague, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, for the wonderful crusade that he has waged as far as this SNIT matter is concerned. And I like the magnanimity with which he approached this discussion, giving all the credit to organized labor, because it is that support that he enjoyed from organized labor and also the media that helped for us to get the results that we have gotten. And so even as we celebrate him, I think that it's important that we recognize the power that we have as a people and how much we can influence decisions of our government, especially when those decisions go against us. Every now and then we tend to think that the only opportunity we have is to change a government in power when we are not happy with it. But we actually have much more power than just to queue and vote out a government. Because in the lifetime of a government, when we as citizens determine what is good for us, there are various ways through which we can, ensure that those things are done in our favor. And it should not matter, even if the positions we take tend to coincide with political, parties' positions or political actors' positions. I think over the years that has been the bane. Sometimes because a politician is leading, a crusade that is in the national interest, you find organizations shying away because they do not want to seem to be associating with that political party. But on this matter, I must commend civil society organizations, organized labor, and the media for the support that they gave Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. And that is why I was a bit unhappy with my senior brother, Yabu Abina Samoa, when he was commending Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa earlier and use a tone that was rather very low, because he has a baritone tone. And you see, for someone who has come from, anti-corruption background, you recall that he used to lead the Ghana Integrity Initiative. At some point, I would have thought that he would have been energized in commending Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who has taken over that mantle from him. But his voice was a bit low when he was commending him. But I think that Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa deserves all the commendation and the celebration that is coming his way. And we must all be reminded that we can do and achieve, greater things if we collaborate, regardless of our partisan ideologies, when it comes to the national interest. And I am looking forward to further collaborations. And look, he raised the issue of the lands. I mean, it is mind-boggling.
You are on the Lands and Forestry Committee of Parliament.
Yes. Okay. Look, it is mind-boggling what is happening in the land ministry, and the brazenness with which the ministry engages in some of these things just leaves you wondering if there is some, security or insurance somewhere that the minister has bought and things that, nothing can happen, to him. Because look, I recently raised the issue of how even the state is engaged in procuring a land guard, to identify so-called government lands, determine how those government lands are secured, in some cases brutalizing people who are on that land, and then take a percentage, a portion of it, as his payment. And this was revealed to us, can you imagine, at a committee meeting.
So you are talking about this Jato issue.
Clement Jato, where the chief director of the ministry, with the audacity, after we have passed a law banning land guardism, told us that the ministry had engaged this private individual because this private individual is so powerful that he has his own army, and this was the chief director. He has his own judges, and that he is able to secure and protect government lands, and that even the police and the Ghana Armed Forces depend on this gentleman to protect their lands. And we all sat down and thought to ourselves, I mean, are we living in a banana republic? And when we raised this matter, fortunately, the police came out to deny, the army came out to deny, the ministry up till today insists that they have a contract with this gentleman. I've been following the minister on the floor to bring the document so that we can all examine it. And for me, it just even beats my imagination that the state will be contemplating engaging someone to protect our state lands. And if you go out there and speak to people, and they tell you
engaging someone
an individual,
the state cannot protect it.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the dereliction of duty
it's monopoly over the instrument?
Because you see, when these things happen, what we have found out is that this person goes to determine that this is a state land. Maybe there are some settlers on it. He uses tags and sometimes the army to get them out, and then comes to sit with the state and says, okay, I've secured 7 acres, and so my payment is 4 acres or 3 acres in some cases. And the 3 acres, some politicians are behind him taking shares from it. That is the arrangement that is at stake. And you can go and Enoch Holdings, that's the company. In fact, there's a land around the Gifford Road that belonged to the Ministry of Agri. They have sold it to him. I mean, and these are the things that they do. You go to the UPSA area, all of that area. I think almost everyone who lives around there knows the story of this gentleman claiming to be working, on behalf of the ministry. When we have state security agencies that are supposed to be doing these exercises,
it's a worthy call and light that you have shed on this matter, and I allowed it for good reason because you are a member of this Lands and Forestry Committee of Parliament.
Thank you.
And beyond this, let me just promise you, Honorable Alhassan Suini, that this is a topic that in the coming weeks you would have to come back.
We will love to. I will love to be here.
Have a conversation on, because it is in the interest of the Ghanaian people, state lands and matters arise. Because there's some people. There are 3 people who have sent me documents right now on some state lands being sold. I don't want to get into it, so we will make some time in getting to this
institutional lands. I mean, you have prison service lands, hospital lands, aviation land, institutional lands, institutions that have the capacity to expand. Alongside the expanding population, because these are services you will always need as a country. And when these lands are secured for their future expansion, we are selling those lands without making provision for the need for these services to expand to cater for our growing population. Are we thinking?
He's a member of Parliament for the Tamale North constituency. And I don't intend to spend too much time on this Dr. Matthew Poku Pempe matter because in the end, yes, an apology has been rendered, but then there were some underlying issues. If the Honorable Andrew Ejapa Mesa is watching and he would want to send a message to either my producer or myself, we would read it because we are still trying to get through to him. We're unable to. His line has been busy for quite a while. So if he's watching or somebody close to him is watching and he can send a message, would read it on this Du Bois matter. So, yes, no, I'll come to you. Yes, this, because you watched this Dr. Matupuku Wempe matter play out, and I have monitored your commentary on this.
Yeah.
But in the end, maybe you say after almost 72 hours, an apology has been rendered. He didn't mean to denigrate any of our presidents, but it is how it came out. Some have recommended that if the MPP is so minded, they should write all the speeches that he would give out after Thursday. Is that one that will make any difference?
Okay. Not much. But one more sentence or statement on the Okudzeto's efforts, yes, right? Please. Yes. You see, Ghanaians, that day, the demo, when he organized it, you didn't turn up. You're always not willing to, walk your talk. But you be at home, various WhatsApp messages. Yes, do this, do that. They organized a demo. I had to leave court to go join. When I looked at the numbers there, I didn't see lots of middle-class people because you chose to stay with your various commitments. This won't get us anywhere. Right. In the democracy, from time to time, it is the case that the tree of democracy is watered with the blood of patriots and villains alike. So if you keep staying on WhatsApp, social media, and just giving support, that's not sufficient. I had court. At a point, I had to leave and come to the demo grounds. You never turned up. Well,
thank you.
I hope Monday you turn up. We'll continue with the demo because the Kufuor and his people have to understand that they've sat on our testicles for far too long. Too long.
That's painful.
Yes.
Thank you for it. Thank you for
yeah, so Napo. Yes, Napo son. Remember last week I said it. He who the gods want to kill, they first make mad. Listen, there is not a scintilla of remorse in that so-called apology. There is no remorse. There is no remorse because
sincere apology.
Oh no. Far from it. It is anything but sincere. And you know it too well, Mr. Ocansey. Let's not, you see, that's why, it's because we like playing ostrich and not wanting to offend people. That's why this country is where it is. We see big people doing all the obviously wrong things. You talk and then they say, oh, wakasa kakre jai. This thing Napo is done. Do you know that after the statement at this in the park, okay, where Otunfuo received them, and I've been wondering, well, I don't know the propriety of that reception anyway, but I will leave that for another day.
Yes.
You know? After saying all those things about Kwame Nkrumah, do you know that the next day he was in Wasa Ekropong, as a western, former Western region? Is it now Western North?
Western North. That's actually Western North.
Wasa Ekropong, and he said it, he repeated it, and said that Ghanaians like lies. When you tell lies, Ghanaians clap for you. When you say the truth, nobody wants to hear.
No, when you say the truth, you are described as arrogant.
You are described as arrogant. But when you lie, then we clap. We clap. That is what Napo said. Is such a man contrite? Is such a man remorseful? No, not in the least. Especially, no. I told you last week, Mr. Ocansey, that where I got that feeling clearly that Napo is not fit for this position as the way he reacted to the Doomsaw comment. He had said there was no Doomsaw and that the journalist who was asking for one was wishing evil on this nation. And you could see that the whole nation were angry. So even assuming we're all fools, sometimes you should know that, but if you are leading, you are too far ahead of us, the rest of us are fools, it tells you that maybe you need to pause and see how to engage with us. So at least he could have brought a an apology on that occasion. He never did. It's not over 3 months now. It's not over 3 months now. That was when I knew that this guy, no, he will never be fit for this office. And John Boydu at a point came out to say that Napo was not even in the race. Matthew Opoku Prempeh was no longer in the race for vice president, that position. So I'm shocked that they went round and then came back with the same candidate. Well, we'll beat him well in December at the polls. Then they will get the message. Because such arrogance, I mean, come on, he is not remorseful. Anybody who tells you that he is remorseful is misleading you. That apology is fake. It's not coming from a contrite heart. It's fake.
You don't put premium on it.
No, to the highest degree. Yesterday I was on social media. I wrote it there that Napo's apology is fake. And it's very clear. As long as he never addressed the Doomsor comment, that was his make or break this moment. The Doomsor comment. People were so angry. And that thing stretched over months. And he chose not to apologize. Went back to Parliament and even said it is doomsday. He was defiant, very defiant, like the way Joe Biden is being defiant when it's very clear that he should quit the presidential race, right? You see that thing. So this Napotin,
right?
When you square it, last comment, when you square it with the prescriptions of Plato in the Republic, Plato and Socrates, that book. They talk about qualities of a leader, right? Qualities. Amongst them, here I'm looking at the illiberality. He shouldn't be that mean. From what Napo is done so far, you see that this is quite a mean candidate, very mean. You make comments that have hurt people, that have, embarrassed us as a nation. We appeal, and he would not respond. He would not apologize for that Doomsor comment. Then now that he's seen that the cup is full with his Kwame Nkrumah comment, he seeks to apologize for that one. It's not sufficient. No. Let's remember that Plato's book was written about 2,000 years before Jesus Christ was born. You will never miss it. The qualities of a good leader. Talking about the philosopher king. The philosopher king. One of them, he shouldn't have illiberality, such meanness. He should not be mean to human souls. He should not be mean. I'm sure we've endured enough meanness from Akufo-Addo and Bawumia. Professor Jampo mentioned the hardship. You see, we've been talking about prices of tomatoes for 4 continuous weeks now. We've suffered enough meanness under Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, who promised to diversify the economy, but ended up doing next to nothing about it. And you want to give us another mean candidate? Sorry.
Well, Professor Jampo.
Well, I will let me say something briefly by first. No, I'll talk about Napo briefly, but first of all, I want to find out whether President Akufo-Addo is aware of this land grabbing spree that is going on. And if he's not aware, if he's not aware, because I mean, despite everything, I still do not think that such a person like President Akufo-Addo should be aware of this effort at virtually selling the whole of the country to appointees or people belonging to the MPP, and then people fronting for them to themselves, and then he would be quiet. So I'm wondering whether he's
beyond MPP. He stretches back.
Well,
to all the
but the other bit is also that I want to say, you see, whilst we're saying this, some people have said that, but the NDC did same.
Yeah, but we shouldn't equalize.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That let us as a people learn to copy from best practices. Okay? It was because of some of these things that they were doing that we didn't like, and we voted against them. We all go to church. Most of us go to church. 3 John chapter 1, verse 11a. 3 John chapter 1, verse 11a. He said, copy from the best practices. And so let us stop these bogus practices of saying...
What's the memory verse again?
I said 3 John chapter 1, verse 11a. Copy from the best practices. This bogus practice of always saying, but these people also did it, and so why are we not being allowed to do it? Doesn't help. Now, fast track to talk about Napo.
The president cannot not know.
He cannot not know.
Yes, because all public lands are vested in him on behalf of the people.
But sometimes you see he's an old man. He's certain.
He should resign. He should resign.
Let's go.
Well, on Napo, you see, commenting about Napo sometimes is difficult for somebody like me. Okay, I sometimes want to be very calm. I want to be very diplomatic, but the more I try, the more I'm not able to be so. I'm a very forthright person. I cannot see what is right and to pretend about it. I say it bluntly, okay? And so sometimes I see that he does, that's who he is. And oftentimes it is difficult for people to draw a line between who is being brutally frank and honest and assertive from who is being arrogant. And you see, the difference between me and him is that I'm an academic. And so if you draw my attention, I would sit up. Okay, so I was expecting that, given the comments that Ghanaians had made prior to his inauguration, he would have, and then given what even Otumfuo said moments before he spoke, he would have tempered his utterances with some caution. He didn't do that. We all saw what happened. You see, he has apologized. Unlike Martin, who doesn't want to place any premium on the apology, I think that if he's apologized, I think the fact that he's apologized and the public revulsion against whatever he did should, going forward, serve as a guide in how he speaks. Now, I want to listen to the complementarity role that he's supposed to play to help to Bawumia to break the age. I want to listen. I want the election to be a healthy contest of ideas. So what is he bringing on board? That is what I want to interrogate. If he's apologized, as far as I'm concerned, I think let's move on. And then, unfortunate thing is that now, every now you are going to make a pronouncement, people will be all yes and be listening to you. And so what has happened should serve as a guide for him and let him go on. Let him articulate his own role that he wants to play. And if the party's strategy is to appeal or arouse their own support base and disregard floating voters and disregard what would also help in they reaching out to the others across the political divide, I mean, so be it. But I've always said that the outcome of the 2024 elections have already been decided in the hearts and in the minds of Ghanaians.
So would that objective of galvanizing the party base, would that statement have been achieved? Looking at the backlash, the content, and then also to the extent that even reference was made to President John Ejekufu,
the point is this. Sometimes we behave as if we don't even know our culture. Let's look at his comments on Doomso. I don't want to talk about. As for the one he said about Kwame Nkrumah, I mean, it was a no-no. But let's even talk about his comment on Doomso. Fellow Ghanaians, for the past 6 months or so, we have experienced challenges with our supply of power. We thank you all for bearing with us. Now you can see that there's been some improvement. Put this statement down. And then just also say, they say there is Doomso. There's no Doomso. It's only Doomso here. They are lying. These two, both of them, okay, will appease or will appeal to your support base. But being who we are, as a well-cultured people, if you go the first route, the people will say, oh, our man is even calm, and they would applaud. Okay, that is who we are as a people.
So you accept the reality.
Okay, so yes, so that is who we are. So I'm saying that rather than going that tangent, given how people have reacted, I think he should tone down, and then he should just articulate his issues. I mean, it was a goof, and he should accept it. He's apologized. Let us move on and let's see. Now, I'm hearing that they want a presidential debate. The last time You see, I Google it, presidential debate. I don't know any, I'm yet to know any scholar who has researched it. I've researched it extensively and written about it extensively because I also worked with the debate organizing organization, the IE, for 14 years. And so I know the merits of a debate, but I also have researched the demerits of a debate. Okay? And now they are saying we want a debate. The last time someone called for a debate, he was told to go and debate with the poor. He should go and debate with Makola people because they know the issues. Yes. But now, not the same person is also asking for. We should be careful about the kinds of things we say when we see the crowd. We should be careful about the kinds of things we say when we have power. We should be careful about the kinds of things we say when we think that it will suit us because it comes back to haunt us. Today you're asking for debate. But the last time when we had said you should go and debate, said no, you won't debate. But the other person
debate teachers, debate all the suffering masses. There will be no debate.
Okay, so let us be careful about the kinds of things we say. But I'm saying again that the outcome of the 2024 elections, in my view, has been decided already.
And Peter McMeno is former chair of the New Patriotic Party. My colleague Kemeni Amano sat with him in a yet to be aired interview on hot issues. I want to take a bit on that question about Dr. Matipoku Prempe's statement and why the party also did not put out any immediate statement afterwards. And then also the eventual apology. In his view, it's a gaffe. Where in politics you say more of an unintentional act or remark, sort of, that caused embarrassment. And so he wants us to move on. But take a look.
I would say that the election is about MPP and DC. So this issue about Nkrumah, for me, it must be made to rest because we are talking about an election scheduled for December 7th between MPP, NDC, and others. So if you have been adored and you have such a huge crowd to come and watch you, I would not concentrate anything about the late Kwame Nkrumah. I would rather concentrate on my competitors.
I mean, you call it a gaffe, but there are people who think that, listen, this is only testimony to how the NPP views Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
I am saying that on political platforms, many things happen, and it has happened to many politicians. So we call it gaffe in politics. Okay? I think MPP as a party has not come out to say anything about this. Because for MPP, it's a competition between the New Patriotic Party, the NDC, and others. I don't think this would have any major effect on MPP's standing in the upcoming elections. It's an election that we are well prepared for now up to 7 December. And I keep saying that in election, if you are picking, you must pick up to the D-Day. And 1 week can even make the difference.
Well, so that's Peter McMeno there. The full interview is at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So it says a number of things that stands out. It's a gaffe. This contest is between MPP and NDC. I think later he corrected himself and said MPP, NDC, and the others. So I know lawyer Yabami Asamoah was readying himself to remind Peter McMeno that the movement for change, day inside, where you are still in the race for the presidency.
He's in where?
He's in Cloud Koku land.
He is not in Ghana.
Why?
Pretending that character of individuals who lead us in the political process doesn't matter.
He says it will not have any material effect.
McMahon is telling us that it is MPP, NDC as institutions who are involved in this election, and therefore they can bring anybody, irrespective of their character traits, to lead this process, and it will not have an impact on the people of Ghana who are going to vote. He is in Cloud Cuckoo land. Ghanaians are very, very aware of themselves. And that apology is so insincere. Right from the beginning, the succession plan engineered by the president has fallen flat. Baumia was a false start, and Napo has crashed them in flames. They are already down in flames. They've crash landed.
How do you describe
there is nothing left. There is
start.
Absolutely nothing left. Have you heard from the president and the flag bearer about what Napo said? Do you think it doesn't deserve a reaction from them? And McMahon was proud enough to say that the MPP hasn't said anything. The corporate MPP hasn't said anything about what the putative nominee, presidential nominee, vice presidential nominee has said. And it was not just about the Nkrumah thing. It was arrogance personified. You have just been washed clean by Otumfuo. Washed clean by Otum. Who spoke to you and told you that you are arrogant? You are arrogant, and be careful. And make sure that you don't go and display that arrogance.
Saying so.
It is called Kasakwa. When a chief is bending the talk in Proverbs, what he was telling you.
You are not a key man.
Yes.
You are not a key man.
And then immediately after that, you go and stand in front of a crowd. What do? You thank everybody. Because it's a redemption. Straight from the palace. You've been redeemed. You've been advised. So everybody will now assume that, oh, you were never brought up to be arrogant, and it's a public perception. So what do? You stand in front of a crowd and you thank everybody for accepting the new you. Instead, you begin by telling everybody who is dissatisfied with the party to go to hell. If you like, come. If you don't like, don't come. Because whether you like it or not, this is where you should be. And then from there, you go and insult the intelligence of the people of Ghana and tell them that there's no doom so. And if you like, do what you like. Then you move beyond that and tell the people of Ashanti that Aziwofioye. So their planque is good for Ashantis, when it was not good for the man who has made him the vice presidential nominee. The flag bearer is telling him that being vice president is useless because it's an aplanque's job. You don't have any authority on otherwise. And he is inflicting that position on Ashanti. And Napo is telling Ashantis, resorting to tribal talk, that Ashanti should take what he is bringing to them, which is useless because Aziwofia Oye. And then he ends by destroying Kwame Nkrumah's by that disastrous attempt to paralyze Kwame Nkrumah and Nana Addo. Why does he have to idolize Nana Addo? Nana Addo is on his way out.
He says it's his opinion.
Yes, it is your opinion. You are entitled to have an opinion, but you cannot denigrate what was there already. So it is his opinion to say that Nana Addo is the best since independence. They say it all the time. We are the best. What they never admit is that they've been the worst in managing the economy. Oh, we've been the best since independence, providing roads. We've been the best since independence, railways. We've been the best since independence, free SHS. What they never say is that we've been the worst in declaring Ghana a bankrupt country. So Napo stands there and says Nana Addo is the best. That's his opinion. Mm-hmm. But when he throws his left hand into the air and says Monfa Kwame Nkrumah, then you've gone beyond comparison to denigration. And then I guess somebody pulled his trousers because he almost mentioned Kufuor's name. He eventually mentioned Kufuor's name. And then he was pulled up short. Look, do you realize, if you were watching, do you realize how desperately embarrassed they were and they were trying to stop him? Pulling at him, the national organizer got himself a microphone to try and stop him. I saw people get up to come and stop him. A note was passed to him. That is how desperate they were. So it is not a matter of this insincere apology. It is a matter of a succession plan gone bad. It has been botched. The succession plan was botched. And it is still botched to the extent that Napo has crash-landed the MPP's campaign. It's over. When he went to the Western region, he had another opportunity to redeem himself. He rather went there and told them that he is right. Mm-hmm. And that, as for him, he tells the truth. And in Ghana, he's the only truth teller, and the Ghanaians are psychopaths. He went to abuse us even further. Yes. He went to abuse Ghanaian voters even further. And McMahon comes to sit down and say it's between MPP and DC. So this useless duopoly process that dehumanizes the Ghanaian voter. A duopoly which presumes to use the name of an institution, MPP, NDC, rather than the character, the ability, the capacity of the individuals that are selected to lead. It's not a sustainable process. That is where I want to tell McMahon that he's wrong when he says that the MPP is between MPP and NDC. It's over. It is now between the people who can lead us. It is between the people who have vision. It is between the people who have performance. It is between the people who can lead us out of where we are to a point where we have stability, growth, resilience, and prosperity for all. And that is where we are going with our lunch team. It has nothing to do with those institutions anymore. Nothing to do with those institutions. And if it has everything to do with those institutions, then the MPP cannot stand up to scrutiny, being led by Bawumia, who has failed woefully on the economy, and being assisted by Napo, whose voice and body demonstrates arrogance personified, and all of it being presided over by a president on his way out, who assumes that we all love him and therefore doesn't care about what happens around him or what he does. And somebody just asked whether he's aware of the things that are going on around him, right here.
Okay. Well,
is he aware? Does the president really believe that where we are now, the MPP in whose name he's managing us is governing this country? No. Does the MPP itself believe that they are governing this country? No. The MPP as a political organization is being processed and managed by individuals who are in charge of the power and authority that the MPP has secured for them. This country, we've gotten to the stage where we shouldn't allow would-be leaders to hide behind institutional names. We should interrogate those individuals as leaders. We should get the best possible. There's hope in democracy. It's the best way forward, but the choice belongs to the people.
Well,
when you go to vote on 7th December 2024, look for the right kind of person who you will vest your executive authority and power in. Look for the person who has demonstrated a record of integrity, capacity, action, and vision. Don't go there and vote for an institution which is moribund, an institution which cannot progress you, an institution you've had experience of, which does not have the capacity and ability to lead you where you want to go. Vote for progress. Vote for the man who can take you where you need to go. Vote for Alanchi Martin.
Okay, well, thank you. That's the difference in opinion on the man that can take us to the next level. But then again, this message from Professor Eric Ansa. Good morning. People are entitled to their personal opinion, but it must not be predicated on falsehood or a distortion, or I don't get the last word that you put there. I think that was a typo. But I said the essence of such a comment must not necessarily be seen through the ideological position, but we should not also water down the consistent comments made by the MPP about Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. In my view, Dr. Matope Kupempe was only reflecting what the larger view and perception or position of the party is. But then again, whether personal or otherwise, it must be predicated on facts. The facts do not support any personal opinion about that comparison between Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So, yes, that's just in response to the question I asked about the fact that, yes, he says it is personal opinion. Even in that apology that was published yesterday, he did reiterate that point, that it is his personal view. In fact, I've heard persons within the party indicate that it is his personal view. His special assistant, Fifi Boafo, also did indicate that it is his personal view as well. That effort to extricate the party from this also sends us another signal. But for Peter McMahon, it has no material effect on the fortunes of the party, so you should not be sweating about this.
Yeah. Well, Alfred, that's Mr. McMahon's assessment of what has been said. But the verdict is out there. If it were the case, I don't think the level of anger that people have displayed and revulsion that people have shown towards those comments would have come to the fore. But you see, arrogance is manifested in various ways. It can be through your actions, it can be through your speech, it can even be through your body language. And so when people say that they are arrogant because they speak the truth, then they misunderstand, you know, what people interpret as arrogance. Yeah. Because truth speaking does not make you arrogant.
Yes.
Like I said, the people will interpret your arrogance based on your conduct, your speech, and your body language. Yeah. And for me, I think that the Asante Hini once again demonstrated that he is a wise ruler. Very wise man. You know, there is a public perception that Napo is his son, which he can't run away from, and that he trained Napo. There's also a public perception that his son, who he trained, is arrogant. So, given the opportunity, even though he advised him indoors, he wanted the people of Ghana to know that he has nothing to do with the arrogant nature of this young man. And that's not how he trained him. And that if people see him to be arrogant, he doesn't see it because that's not how he trained him. But he is cautioning him not to make people right. Wise man. Wise man. So if he goes out to mess himself further like he did, he, Asante Hini, has no hand in it. He didn't train him like that. Very wise man. And I think that was the purpose of making that advice public, so that people wouldn't think that he trained an arrogant boy. Because you see, there's the tendency for people to associate arrogance with authority and power. Yeah. So people could have been forgiven to say that, oh, his arrogance is because he was raised in the palace, or because he's Asante Hini's boy. But Asante Hini has told us that if he's arrogant, and we have all determined that he's arrogant, we shouldn't associate it with him. Yeah. Very wise man. Yeah. I was very impressed that he did it the way he did. Then he goes to the platform. And what did we see? Like Mr. Yaboabe Asamoah has said, it wasn't just the attack on former presidents, but attack on even party members who have grievances about how the party is managed. He gave it to them. Yeah. He gave it to teachers, claiming that they even steal food that is abandoned. He gave it to teachers on that platform. I mean, and you were wondering, is this the person who is supposed to be exuding a certain level of, you know, unity of purpose? Because that's what I will think the M people will need at this point. And then he went further, not only to give it to Nkrumah, but to his own mentor. Because I've always known Napo to be one of the Kufuor trainees, mentees. That's how he's always projected himself. But with little elevation, his ingratitude shows on that platform. Little elevation by Nana Akufo-Addo, he already forgets that he's a Kufuor boy. And then he gives it to Kufuor.
How? He's been fighting. He and Kufuor are not good terms.
But it doesn't matter.
They've had to patch up several times.
That's for you who know. In fact, he almost mentioned President Kufuor's name. Because he said, and then he dragged his trousers.
We didn't hear that.
Well, you complained back. He said and then he somebody dragged his trousers. And then he paused. No, you complained back.
Nobody dragged his trousers.
He said, the thing is that Alfred, he said,
putting too much.
Let me finish. No, you complained back. He said he didn't end at Mumfa Mukwame Nkrumah. He went further. He almost mentioned a second name and paused.
But we don't know what the name he was going to.
Well, I believe that he doesn't have any respect for President Mahama, so he would have still mentioned it. The only reason why he paused was because he remembered that if he mentioned that name, the party would take him on. But he almost mentioned President before. And when I saw the apology after the intransigence in the Western region, where he said he was just a truth speaker, what came to my mind, Alfred, was that this apology was not for Kwame Nkrumah. And it was not to the people of Ghana. It was an apology to President Kufuor. It was an apology to President Kufuor. Specifically, he mentioned especially my grand-uncle.
Yes.
And then watch the words. The people of Ghana were not discomforted by his conduct. They were angry. But he says he's apologized for any discomfort it caused. Because I believe that his behavior caused some discomfort within the party, especially in President Kufuor's house. So he has to remind himself and remind President Kufuor, that you are my grand-uncle, and I'm sorry for any discomfort that I caused. The apology was pure and simple to President Kufuor, but to the rest of us, the people of Ghana who are concerned about, the disrespect he showed to President Kufuor, we can toast in our pig-headedness for all he cares. He just didn't apologize to former President Nkrumah. He didn't apologize to us for being upset with him. He said that he's a truth speaker. And you see, Alfred, like I said,
you don't
arrogance.
See these words that I never meant to disrespect our former president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He mentions his name there.
Yes.
Or any of our former heads of state.
Yes.
Including my own grand-uncle.
Why did he include that is the essence of the apology, including my grand-uncle and mentor, Mr. John Kufuor. I know the concerns raised after my statement. I apologize sincerely. I regret my discomfort caused.
Yes.
The people of Ghana were not discomforted. They were angry.
Oh, but anger brings.
But you see,
anger brings discomfort.
I'm saying that. Why even he said? But let me wrap up. If you please, if
was the second name he was going to mention. The person is already down. So let's move on.
You see,
he has apologized.
You see, when you talk of arrogance, I've already told you that it can manifest in various ways. Now, if you have, a person like the vice president on the platform declare himself as the best vice president this country has ever had, it lacks humility. It lacks humility. And again, I thought to myself, couldn't you even be magnanimous about the fact that former Vice President Aliu Mahama contributed so much to making you a vice president? But that is an arrogant person who will not even wait to be celebrated, but will celebrate himself and say, look, I am the best vice president since independence.
So you are not celebrating him enough.
That lacks magnanimity. You see, Alfred, I'm saying that lacks magnanimity.
For crashing the economy.
For crashing his economy. Then he has the arrogance to even disrespect his own party's former vice president, who sacrificed so much to make him vice president. I mean, he doesn't even see that he should be humble. Even, look, we are taught to be humble in our successes. Is that not so?
Yeah.
We are taught to be humble in our successes. That is the level of humility. That is the Ghanaian-ness in us. But this man, so it is not just Napo who is arrogant. And so you find him move from there and then goes to the north. And you see, Alfred, growing up as a young man from the north, I watch our northern politicians in different political parties. One thing they had for each other was respect. I watched John Mahama and Aliu Mahama, respect for each other. But you see, what I have seen Dr. Bawumia do consistently since he was nominated as running mate is to disrespect, and that's arrogance. His senior brother, John Mahama, he says he's empty like an empty barrel. He should come for them to debate.
Okay, well,
arrogance.
Let me bring Mensah because he has to run away.
So Alaji, makes the point that he believes that Otumfuo was being very wise.
Very wise.
To make sure that anything that happened in the thereafter, he could dissociate himself. That, look, this is not how I trained the man. Honestly, as I watched his posture, I think Otumfuo wasn't just trying to dissociate himself. I think I want to give him some more credit and say he was being very serious. If you look at his facial contortions, it was like, this is a nephew, this is a son of the land, and I'm telling you, you've gotten yourself into a privileged position. From this point, be very cautious. I think Otumfuo was trying to set the platform, as Yao has said, wipe the slate clean and give him an opportunity to move forward. However, before Otumfuo, we had Prophet Yankson. How many of us remember Kojo Yankson a week earlier and said that, look, this is a disaster waiting to happen. And somehow, and that's the problem I have, it looks like our political elite, especially those in government, are not listening. What is happening and they are refusing to listen to anyone? I don't know. Refusal to listen. They didn't listen. Yankson said categorically, the way this man talks, this thing is dead on arrival. And within 1 week, it didn't even take 1 week. This is what has happened. I think we want to remind them that, please, if you've been looking at the electoral fortunes of the parties, no party has more than 50%. All parties have a core constituency of, let's say, 40 to 42%. There's about 15 to 17% floating voters who you need to cut. The neutrals. People who are independent and making up their mind and swinging.
We are here.
And we are here. Yes, absolutely. We are here. So that idea that, the core ethnic grouping is sufficient for you to cross the line is a mirage. I think what bothers me the most is the ethical deficit that we are seeing across board. The issues we've been talking about, the inconsistency. In opposition, you say one thing. You make promises. We'll do the economy this, we'll do the economy that. Then you get into office, you don't fulfill any of the promises. You come back on a presidential ticket and you're expecting us to follow you. What are we talking about? One moment you insist on your position, I'm right. I will not apologize. Kwame Nkrumah didn't do that. Then you come up with an apology and you expect us to believe you. Why should we believe you?
Why are you not believing?
Integrity, honesty, respect. If he had respect for all the other presidential candidates, all the people who have served this country, you don't get on a platform and you make comments that suggest that they had nothing to offer to this country. You know your own candidacy depends on the votes of Ghanaians. You are cautious about how you offend other constituencies. Honesty, respect, integrity, ethical deficiencies. So I'm worried, and I'm saying just like Martin was saying, when we go to the voting booth, look out for Ghanaians who have shown consistent ethical positions, knowing what is right, doing what is right, and influencing others to do what is right. That's what we should be voting for. Don't vote for people who have said one thing and not stood up to stand for that. They have not delivered on their promises.
If that's the yardstick you're going to be using, which political grouping will pass the test?
I don't know why I'm talking about political grouping. We are looking for candidates.
Or which candidate will pass? Because, well, there's always been that path, and we're on it, where statements have been made in the past, and it's always brought up, and the inconsistencies juxtaposed, one against the other. So if you're talking about that being the ethical standard for the selection of leaders in this country, who's going to pass the test?
The truth of the matter is this. The least we would expect is that when you have made something wrong, you come back to the people, offer an apology, and give us the remedy of what you do going forward. That is the challenge we face. People are not willing to accept that we have failed, we have made a mistake, and you know what is happening in Kenya now? What is Ruto doing? He is accepting where things have gone wrong, taking the necessary actions in there now. Not giving a pushback, pretending, until Labour says that, oh, we are jumping onto the streets, nothing, then all of a sudden you decide that you backtrack. What kind of ethical position is that? At least acknowledge that you are doing something wrong, come to the people, sit with your stakeholders, come up with solutions and strategies. That's what we are expecting. When you are able to look at a candidate where anytime an issue was raised, they were willing to come to the table, talk about it, sanction when necessary, come up with remedies, sitting with stakeholders. Now we are talking about serious candidature for leadership in this country. Then we are sure that going forward, we will make progress.
Has any of the candidates given you the assurance, especially in the fight against corruption, what they are going to do? Because this was a question that came up during that encounter with John Mahama. And he indicated that, look, to the extent that he was branded as the most corrupt president, and now no prosecution has been brought up against him, and he's come back to seek re-election, tells you that it was all for the politics of it. Let's take a look at that, and I'll find out from you what citizens should be looking out for, especially going into this election with this campaign of corruption. Whether it's just for the politics of it, or there is some ethical basis or some basis of fact to it. Take a look.
A lot of allegations were thrown against me. I've been out of office for 7 years and 7 months. You think that if this government had anything they could stand on with how they hate my persona, they would not have prosecuted me for it. Airbus, the president referred it to the OSP, and the OSP is supposed to investigate it. You don't expect me to investigate myself.
Well, so, Mr. Ano, would you fault him for this sense of vindication?
Let me put it this way. Clearly, the government in opposition, the party in opposition at the time, trumped up the corruption issues and used it as a platform to get into power. It was clear. I mean, issues had arisen. I had been reflecting on the SADES, the GDES, the bus branding issues that came up. And I find that, to a certain extent, the Mahama government made much more effort to address issues, because bus branding, they renegotiated, whichever Smarties or so paid by 1.5 million or so. Eventually, Jifa Ativo resigned. JIDA contracts were cancelled. SADA contracts again were cancelled. People have, yes.
15 million.
Yes. And so there's a certain responsiveness that happened. However, as I've listened to President Mahama, I still see a gap. It looks like the immediate remedial actions have been taken. But have we learned in terms of what are the preventive actions? How come these things happened in those sectors? What are we going to do differently to prevent them from reoccurring?
You haven't heard that?
I haven't heard that. Okay. And so I worry. That's the gap I see. Because in our space, for anti-corruption and good governance, we say prevention is much more important than prosecution or chasing the money after it's gone out. So, yes, there seems to be an advantage, but we have not yet nailed it, and would like to hear the candidates talking about learning. How are we learning so that we perform much better going into the future? That would be my question.
Thank you. And I'll give that on this same last couple of minutes to Lawyer Matic Bebo as well, because on the same path, the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which, and what kind of statement would you expect from the various persons who are seeking our mandate, especially because of that provision of the asset declaration, the publication of the assets owned by these persons seeking our mandate, so that we all get to know what they owe in terms of assets before they come into power. And when they are leaving they will publish. Then we know what do you expect to hear from them?
Exactly what you stated, Mr. Ocansey. Exactly that. Pure and simple. That let's have that new law, that new asset declaration law, which makes it mandatory that these public officers would publish their assets after the declaration. In other words, as part of the new regime, when they hand in the declaration, the institution, if it's still shroud, fine. But if we want to amend and create a totally new institution to deal with it like what they do in Nigeria, fine, whichever one. But the institution will then publish, preferably online, so that the man in Paga, the man in Boko, right, can sit right there and check rather than having to travel to Accra. Because if there is a minister from his community and he sees the minister so close to 10 buildings that the whole community believe it belongs to the minister, and yet when he Googles online, he sees that the asset declaration form has only 3 buildings or something, then they can, raise concerns. Because asking a man to travel from Boku to Accra to come and check on the asset declaration is not a viable option to, give citizens at this time of our development. So let's do it by all means. I know it's an IMF conditionality. So right. I'm surprised that for our next tranche, you see that they've done the Bank of Ghana bill to give it more independence, etc. But we've not seen anything about the asset declaration law, when it is also an IMF conditionality. So let's look at it.
Very important. And just to put it on record that we have a big conversation on this Conduct of Public Officers Bill in the coming weeks here on TV3.
Just to wind up, just to reiterate my point on the call on policymakers and politicians to do more to tackle the food inflation that we are experiencing. A cousin of mine last 2 weeks came from the US, and he took a few other cousins out on dinner. They mentioned the food. They say, hey. He couldn't stay for 2 weeks. He's just fled the country because but the cost of living, in other developed jurisdictions, food is the cheapest. But it appears that we are spending all our money on food. And it is not helpful. We should be ashamed as we go about trumpeting of a cliche to break any age if we have not been able to solve the basic food inflationary problems confronting, the good people of Ghana.
Professor Ransford Jampo is yes, I do. And we'll have a conversation.
So
in fact, I don't want you to take it out because we will spend time on GTP.
8 points.
I promise you that.
8 points on
thank you so much. Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana.
I should make it
also to you
is that he doesn't see what will be different under President Mahama. And it's because maybe we're not listening to him very well. He's saying that, look, my fight against corruption made me a victim of corruption. And that is what he also agrees to. That because he was fighting it, it rather seemed as if he was engaging in it.
Tamale North Member of Parliament
just has promised that.
Al-Hassan Suhini, thank you so much. Lawyer Martin Pebo, I appreciate your coming. Also to you, Lawyer Yababe Samoa, I appreciate your coming. Thank you. Thank you so much. And to all the others joined us earlier, to Ablakwa and
Martin Moye, you can show up to Mozambique, back to South Africa. You did ship 4 days. What did you?